Chapter 677. Naruto appeared in his room with Hinata in his arms. At this time, Hinata was already asleep, her breathing was even, and her sleeping face was quiet. "There are 14 days left, and you will be mine." Naruto gently combed the hair that fell on Hinata's face. He couldn't help but look down. Naruto's heart was warm, and Hinata's development was still excellent. "Just looking at it, don't you want to try it?" A sudden voice sounded in Naruto's body. It was Otsutsuki Kagaya. "Don't worry, I didn't see anything." Otsutsuki Kagaya's tone was full of ridicule. Naruto's mouth twitched, and he had an impulse to curse. Taking a deep breath, he replied, "What haven't you experienced? Even if I show you this kind of thing, I think you're already tired of it and don't bother to look at it." Naruto wanted to ridicule Otsutsuki Kagaya, but he didn't expect Otsutsuki Kagaya to reply very calmly, "Indeed, I've seen enough." What else can Naruto say? After thinking about it, he was too lazy to reply. It is said that women who have given birth to children are not afraid of hooligans, and he saw it today. Naruto thought about it and thought of another thing, and asked, "In terms of bloodline, you are the source, then why didn't you open the Tensigen?" Otsutsuki Kagaya asked curiously, "How do you know that I didn't open it?" This question is not easy to answer. After a while, Kagaya answered herself, "I really didn't open that kind of dojutsu. In my memory, that kind of dojutsu, even for the Otsutsuki clan, not everyone can open it." The Otsutsuki clan that Otsutsuki Kagaya mentioned was naturally not the family established by her children on the moon, but her family on another planet. Naruto raised his eyebrows when he heard it. The Otsutsuki clan can't open dojutsu casually? Why is that? Otsutsuki Kagaya replied irresponsibly, "I don't know, it's been too long, I'm old, and my memory is getting worse." Naruto was speechless, but he also sensed that Otsutsuki Kagaya wasn't lying. Even the Otsutsuki clan couldn't use dojutsu at will. As Naruto thought about it, he suddenly became interested in studying the Tensigen. He immediately used the body blink technique and disappeared from the room. When he reappeared, he was in the middle of a mountain. In front of Otsutsuki Tonari. "Little brother Emo ran, can you lend me these eyes to play with?" The sudden appearance of Naruto startled Tonari. "Why are you still here? Have you been following me?" Naruto's gaze fell on Otsutsuki Tonari's hand. "You have something left by that guy. It's too easy to find you." Otsutsuki Tonari followed Naruto's gaze and saw the Inyong escape mark left by Six Paths Sennin. Just as he was about to speak, Naruto suddenly appeared beside him and grabbed his hand. "I was so focused on the Tensigen that I forgot about this thing." Suddenly being grabbed by Naruto, Otsutsuki Tonari was extremely uncomfortable. But he couldn't pull it out. He watched as Naruto pressed his thumb on the mark, and then a strong burning sensation came from his palm. "Don't let him succeed." Six Paths Sennin's voice exploded in his ears like a great bell. Otsutsuki Tonari's newly awakened Tensigen lit up. Repulsion. With the contact with Hinata just now, Naruto was already prepared. When Otsutsuki Tonari launched the Tensigen, his body directly blurred, offsetting the ability of the Tensigen. At the same time, Naruto's spiritual power imprint had been left on the Inyong mark. Spiritual power connected, and the scene in front of him changed and appeared in Six Paths Sennin's spiritual space. "We've met for the third time, Six Paths Sennin." Naruto's voice was full of a cheap tone. Six Paths Sennin's figure appeared out of thin air and scolded, "Are you still going to be stubborn?" Naruto squatted down and pressed his left hand on the pool water, and a water vortex formed in an instant. This was the beginning of devouring the Inyong mark. A huge amount of vitality poured into Naruto's body. This time, the Inyong mark was Yong release. "You said I'm stubborn. Since I'm stubborn, how can I be stubborn?" Feeling the power of the Inyong mark fading, Six Paths Sennin intended to take back the mark on Otsutsuki Tonari, but he failed. His eyes were about to crack, and he was furious. He questioned Naruto, "What did you do?" Naruto replied calmly, "I'm not a fool. How can I fall into the same trap twice?" Six-Path Sennin seemed to feel something and said in horror, "Where did you take Tonari?" Naruto didn't hide and directly replied, "I took him to the space created by your mother." Six-Path Sennin seemed to have heard something extremely terrible. His beard trembled, and he asked, "Who are you?" Naruto squatted on the ground. Logically speaking, Naruto should be looking up at Six-Path Sennin at this time. But he didn't know if it was because of the rapid devouring of his power that distorted the view here. Naruto looked more like he was looking down at Hagoromo. "What? Do you think I'm your mother? Why don't you call me and see if I answer?" "No, wait, it's too strange to be called mother. Why don't you call me father and see if I answer?" Naruto continued to tease him. The vortex was spreading, and soon it spread to the entire space. The sound of glass breaking was heard, and the cracks that appeared out of thin air were shocking. Six-Path Sennin stared at Naruto with a look of shock and anger. "I'll remind you one last time. You'd better stop." The broken space suddenly slowed down a little. Six-Path Sennin thought that Naruto had realized his mistake, but in fact, Naruto asked Otsutsuki Kagaya in his heart, "Why don't you come out and see your son?" It's the third time. Otsutsuki Kagaya couldn't know the story of the third time. He saw that Otsutsuki Kagaya was still lying on the bench. Her smooth arms and slender fingers supported her cheeks in a very beautiful posture. That bench was prepared by Naruto for Otsutsuki Kagaya. In fact, he also prepared some beds and dressers, but they were rejected by Otsutsuki Kagaya. The only thing left was this bench that could be used to lie on its side. What's there to see about an unfilial grandson? Get rid of him early, so that he doesn't annoy me. By the way, you just asked Hagoromo to call you father, are you serious? I didn't expect you to be interested in me? Naruto blushed. Asking Six-Path Sennin to call him father was a complete humiliation to Six Paths. It was just a humiliation. He didn't expect to be teased by Otsutsuki Kagaya because of this. No. Naruto's answer was very affirmative. The rotating vortex was fully activated, and Six-Path Sennin's spiritual space was extremely distorted and crushed until it was shattered. However, this didn't mean that Six-Path Sennin was defeated, it just swallowed the sun mark on Otsutsuki Tonari's hand. Before Six-Path Sennin disappeared, he let out a last roar, "Naruto!" Boom! The whole space completely collapsed. The scene in front of him also disappeared, and what he saw was Otsutsuki Kagaya's supergravity space. Otsutsuki Tonari was pressed to the ground by gravity far beyond the ninja world. He looked at Naruto with bloodshot eyes as if looking at his father's murderer. "Good eyes," Naruto praised. Just like when Otsutsuki Tonari praised Hinata Ninji. "Naruto, do you dare to give me 7 more days?" If it was an ordinary person, he would have been crushed to death by the powerful gravity in this space. Otsutsuki Tonari can still speak. It can be said that he is very outstanding among ordinary people. 7 days? You want me to wait for your Tensigen to fully awaken? Otsutsuki Tonari didn't speak. This is really not a place for people to stay. Every word is a great torture. Naruto didn't want him to be lazy, and said, "You answer. How do I know what you mean if you don't answer? What if I misunderstand?" Otsutsuki Tonari gritted his teeth and stared at Naruto. He squeezed out a word between his teeth. "Yes." His voice was not small, full of fierceness that wanted to eat Naruto. Naruto sat cross-legged. "So, is it a request or a threat?" Otsutsuki Tonari didn't speak. He was really in pain. Naruto said, "Oh, you're not talking again. If you say you're begging me, I'll agree. If you threaten me, I'll crush you." "What on earth do you mean?" The pressure increased, and Otsutsuki Tonari's body twitched for a while. The madness on his face became more and more ferocious, and he didn't answer. Naruto looked at Otsutsuki Tonari quietly and said to himself, "Why do I suddenly feel like I'm robbing a kindergarten child of a lollipop?" "Forget it. I'll give you a chance." Rinnegan Sharingan was activated. In the heavenly domain, Naruto disappeared from the supergravity world with Otsutsuki Tonari, and when he reappeared, he appeared in the ice and snow world. The great temperature difference made Otsutsuki Tonari shiver. Naruto looked at Otsutsuki Tonari, who was huddled with his hands on his chest, and said, "Why do you look like you've been?" The temperature in the ice and snow world was so low that ice began to condense on Otsutsuki Tonari's clothes. His breath turned into ice, and his lips were purple. Naruto said, "This world and the one just now, which one do you choose?" "Why don't we change back?" Otsutsuki Tonari finally said, "Is there no normal place?" Naruto smiled. "Normal? You mean the temperature is higher?" Otsutsuki Tonari felt that he was about to freeze to death, so he nodded. Rinnegan Sharingan was activated again, and Naruto considerately brought Otsutsuki Tonari to the lava world. Creak. Otsutsuki Tonari's frozen and brittle belt directly shattered under the influence of the ultra-high temperature. Boom. Several flaming mountains erupted. Lava sprayed high in the sky like a large firework. It seemed to be celebrating the arrival of Naruto. The temperature also suddenly rose. Otsutsuki Tonari tried his best to protect himself with chakra, but chakra was rapidly consumed in the process of resisting the high temperature. Otsutsuki Tonari had no doubt that the moment his chakra was exhausted, he would directly spontaneously combust in this world. He couldn't help but stare at Naruto with resentment. Naruto didn't notice. "How is it here? Is it much hotter? I'll tell you, I'm still a very easy person to talk to." "Fuck you, easy to talk to. Fuck your second uncle." Otsutsuki Tonari wanted to curse, but he was afraid that if he cursed, he would be directly thrown into the volcano. Therefore, he could only enjoy it in his heart. On the surface, he gritted his teeth humbly and said, "Give me 7 days. If I still lose to you after 7 days, I'll be at your disposal." Naruto picked his ear. "The problem is that you're at my disposal now. Without strength, the deal is not fair. Do you think I can promise you? Are you stupid or am I stupid?" Otsutsuki Tonari replied with his eyes. "You're stupid. You're a big idiot." After hesitating for a moment, Otsutsuki Tonari said, "My clan's golden wheel Tensigen is with you, right? Give me 14 days. If you win against me after 14 days, I'll tell you how to control that eye." Naruto looked at Otsutsuki Tonari with a smile. "Didn't you just say 7 days?" Otsutsuki Tonari also stared at Naruto. "Golden wheel Tensigen is worth this price." "Is it worth it?" "It's really worth it. Not to mention anything else, there are still 1,500 super laborers in the Golden Wheel Tensigen, and as long as the Tensigen exists, it's worth it." "Then, why the 14th day?" Naruto asked again. Otsutsuki Tonari replied, "You'll get married after 14 days. Naruto smiled. "You want to rob the marriage?" Otsutsuki Tonari didn't know how Naruto understood from marriage to robbing the marriage. But he had to admit that he did think so. Hinata was the woman he liked. How could this guy in front of him be worthy of marrying Hinata? Otsutsuki Tonari gritted his teeth and said, "Yes." Naruto suddenly raised his hand and touched Otsutsuki Tonari's head. It was like touching the head of a Shiba Inu. Once, twice, 3 times. The first time, Otsutsuki Tonari was stunned. The second time, he reacted that his head was touched by the bitch in front of him, and he was so angry that his face turned red. The third time, he wanted to struggle, but his body couldn't move at all. He could only stare at Naruto with fierce eyes. Naruto touched him 3 times and continued to touch him, saying, "Oh, your courage is really commendable. You look good, but you're so fierce. Well, I agree to your request, but there is a condition. If I win, I'll turn you into a big dog to guard the gate of my palace. How about it?" "Change. Deal. Dog." Otsutsuki Tonari's whole body trembled with anger, and Chakra's control was unstable, and the corner of her clothes accidentally ignited. Naruto thought and extinguished the flame. "Oh, you haven't made a big mistake. I don't want to eat barbecued dog meat. If you're cooked now, it will be difficult for me to decide whether to eat or not." Rinnegan Sharingan was activated again. Naruto appeared in the primeval sphere with Otsutsuki Tonari. As a transit space connecting the other 5 spaces, this is the most normal space. The other 2 are the strong acid ocean and the desert. I'll give you 14 days, but you'll have to spend 14 days here. Here's your dog food. Naruto created a bag of dog food with yin-yang release. The package was dog food, and it contained soldier food pills. Naruto sniffed it, and it smelled very similar to the bag of dog food given to Tooth Inuzuka in his memory. Naruto was very satisfied, and his yin-yang release has improved after integrating the seal of 6 paths Naruto through the dog food to Otsutsuki Tonari. Remember to eat it. I'll leave you alone. We'll see you in 14 days. By the way, in order to prevent you from denying it, you have to sign a soul contract. A piece of paper appeared out of thin air and floated to Otsutsuki Tonari. There were 3 big words on it. Dual book. The conditions were just discussed. Don't look at me, just stamp it with your paw and leave a spiritual imprint. Otsutsuki Tonari said fiercely, "You'll regret it." Then he pressed his hand on the paper. But he didn't expect that the paper suddenly had another page when his hand pressed down. Yin-yang contract. Otsutsuki Tonari turned to the second piece of paper, and the words, Master and Servant Contract, were particularly eye-catching. Naruto. I $%. Chapter 678. Master-Servant Contract. Content. If Otsutsuki Tonari is defeated by Uzumaki Naruto in the gambling fight, Otsutsuki Tonari will serve Naruto as his master for the rest of his life. During the period of being a slave, he will unconditionally obey any orders given by his master, even if it is suicide. Uzumaki Naruto. Otsutsuki Tonari roared at Naruto. Naruto shrugged his shoulders indifferently. As long as you win, why are you so excited? Besides, you should thank me. If there wasn't such a contract. Naruto leaned down, and the smile on his face became playful. He stared at Otsutsuki Tonari and said, "Do you think I can still let you live?" Naruto's aura changed in an instant, and the dense killing intent was like the cold wind in winter, making Otsutsuki Tonari shiver. At the same time, dark clouds pressed down, and the sun couldn't be seen. Can a person's will affect the weather? No, only divine power. The vision came and went quickly. When Naruto put on a kind smile again, the wind and clouds changed in the blink of an eye. The sky was clear, and there was a vast expanse of green. Let's go, see you in 14 days. After Naruto left, Otsutsuki Tonari sat on the ground with a plop. Can he defeat such a person? For the first time, Otsutsuki Tonari had doubts about what he was going to do. His heart wavered. I must. After a brief moment of confusion, Otsutsuki Tonari's expression suddenly distorted. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Suddenly, he kicked the bag of dog food to pieces. Pig bone-flavored soldier food pills scattered like flowers and exploded on the ground. He also had soldier food pills, so he didn't need to accept this kind of insult. While thinking, Otsutsuki Tonari touched his pocket. He didn't touch it at first. What about it? Otsutsuki Tonari touched it again. Nothing. It was empty. Uzumaki Naruto. Otsutsuki Tonari roared at the top of his voice. The only explanation was that Naruto had taken the item away. This was forcing him to eat dog food. On the first day, Otsutsuki Tonari did not eat. The next day, Otsutsuki Tonari still didn't eat. On the third day, Otsutsuki Tonari, who was so hungry that his body was floating, tried to gnaw on the roots of the primordial sphere. However, the tree root was harder than steel. It was impossible to chew through it, let alone digest it. On the fourth day, Otsutsuki Tonari, whose eyes were green with hunger, stared at the soldier food pills on the ground for several hours. If he doesn't eat, the evolution of the Tenseigan is likely to be affected. Naruto. I'll remember it. Otsutsuki Tonari gritted his teeth, picked up a soldier grain pill, and swallowed it with an extremely disgusted expression. The taste was surprisingly delicious. However, the shame in his heart made him kick the word delicious out of his mind. The soldier grain pills that Naruto made were very different from ordinary soldier grain pills. Normally, as long as a soldier ate one grain pill, he wouldn't need to eat for 3 days. Naruto was hungry after only an hour. So, should he still eat? Otsutsuki Tonari didn't want to eat. But he thought that one was going to be eaten anyway, so what if he ate one more? So he ate another one. When Otsutsuki Tonari ate the 5th one, a golden mist suddenly spurted out of the soldier grain pill. Then Otsutsuki Tonari began to fart uncontrollably. Naruto. I #yen%. You and *%. 7 days later. Hinata's Byakugan completely evolved into the Tensigen after 3 fetal movements. On the same day, Otsutsuki Tonari escaped from the primordial sphere created by Otsutsuki Kagaya. Mingdu Empire. As the current owner of the primordial sphere, Naruto could naturally feel the change. Did he run away? If he ran away, he will automatically come to me in 2 days anyway. Then Naruto spent a leisurely time. During this period, whether it was Otsutsuki Tonari, Rikudo, or Uchiha Obito, Uchiha Itachi didn't come to trouble him. Mingdu Empire was bustling with tourists. Everyone came to attend Naruto's wedding. Among these people, 2 people with exceptionally lush hair were particularly conspicuous. Madara, I didn't expect that we would have time to go shopping together. Tobirama bought a windmill on the street and played with it like a child. Uchiha Madara looked around with a cold expression, looking at the city where every street, every building, and every house was in order. It was very lively here. People were very harmonious, no one made trouble, and no one pulled out a sword. Even if 2 people who were obviously enemies met on the street, they would be particularly restrained, hurriedly glanced at each other as if they didn't see each other and passed by. The ground of this city was very sturdy. It seemed to be paved with bluestone slabs, but when the wooden clogs stepped on it, they only made the same sound. It was neither too loud nor too soft. This meant that although the ground seemed to be pieced together, in reality, it was a completely natural piece. There were too many incredible things in this city. It inexplicably reminded him of the ideal city he had envisioned. Many people here didn't let go of their hatred, but these people didn't dare to do it because of fear. This was very similar to his past philosophy. It was not the bullshit world that Tobirama advocated to let people understand each other and care for each other. I'm curious about the people who built this city. Madara looked up into the distance. At the end of the main road, there was an imperial city that was higher than all the buildings. There lived the owner of this place. Everyone here said so. Madara also felt that this should be the case. Tobirama looked at the imperial city. He shook his head. It's too high. It should be tiring to climb up. Let's wait until tomorrow. Then he sniffed and followed the smell and saw a hot pot restaurant. He was surprised. It smells good. Let's go to that restaurant. Madara looked deeply at the towering imperial city and lowered his head to look at the restaurant that Tobirama said. He didn't refuse, so he agreed. This day was the day before Naruto's wedding. Naruto stood on the tower with a smile on his face. He saw a pair of brothers going to the hot pot restaurant. I didn't think that Hagoromo would resurrect these 2 guys. Interesting. These 2 plus Uchiha Itachi, plus Uchiha Obito, and Otsutsuki Tonari. This lineup is really interesting. But where are Uchiha Itachi and Obito now? Naruto didn't perceive Itachi and Obito. Hagoromo seemed to have thought of a way to block Naruto's perception. This time, if he didn't see Madara and Hashirama with his own eyes, Naruto wouldn't know that these 2 were resurrected. Naruto thought of another thing. By the way, maybe Hashirama knows the whereabouts of Orochimaru. Naruto's eyes lit up. System prompt: you have received a video call request from Uzumaki Mito. Accept. Uzumaki Mito's petite appearance appeared in front of Naruto. Naruto. I cracked the structure of the Tensigen. Hurry up and give me the Sharingan, I want to form a large Rinnegan. Forced it out. It's only been a few days, and Uzumaki Mito's talent in formation made Naruto ashamed. You cracked it all? So can you manipulate the Tensigan now? Uzumaki Mito's excited expression froze, and she shook her head. Not yet. That involves a deeper level of forcing. I haven't tried yet. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. If it was completely cracked, his bet with Otsutsuki Tonari would be too much of a loss. He asked, "Then what did you crack?" Otsutsuki Mito poked his finger on his chest, not as confident as before. He whispered, "I cracked the general structure of the Tensigan, and some of the principles. This, although it's not completely cracked, it's still very powerful. I can use the cracked structure on the Sharingan, so that I can reverse the theory by studying the formation process of the fusion of large Rinnegan. In short, if it succeeds, not only will it greatly shorten the research time, but it will also allow you to have a large Rinnegan." Naruto nodded and didn't dispel Uzumaki Mito's enthusiasm. "Alright, I'll give you the Sharingan to study after my wedding," he replied. "Tomorrow is my wedding, and you have to stay in the lab." Uzumaki Mito's eyes widened in surprise. "Tomorrow is your wedding? I remember there are more than 10 days left, right?" Naruto thought and pulled Uzumaki Mito out of Saidan's inner world. When the two met, the video call was turned off. Naruto rubbed Uzumaki Mito's head in amusement. "Yes, there were more than 10 days ago, but now there is only 1 day left." Uzumaki Mito blinked cutely. "Then I studied the Otsutsuki for 13 days? I thought I only studied it for 1 day. It's over, I haven't prepared a gift for your wedding yet." Naruto waved his hand. "That's not important, it doesn't matter if you have it or not. By the way, your ex-husband has been resurrected, and he is now in the Mingdu Empire. Do you want to meet him?" Uzumaki Mito pointed to herself in surprise. "My ex-husband? The elder brother that Tobirama mentioned?" Naruto nodded in response. Uzumaki Mito scratched her chin cutely and asked, "Is he handsome?" Naruto raised his hand and recorded the scene he just saw and showed it to Uzumaki Mito. In the picture, there was a big man in Hashirama who was happily blowing a windmill. Naruto created a windmill with yin-yang release and was about to hand it to Uzumaki Mito. Uzumaki Mito stared at the picture and shook her head. "Isn't it childish? Such a big man playing with a windmill? Is he mentally retarded?" Naruto took the windmill awkwardly and explained, I was going to give this to you to play with." Uzumaki Mito saw the windmill in Naruto's hand and quickly took it. She thanked him very happily. "Thank you, this windmill is so beautiful." Naruto laughed. "Didn't you just say it was childish?" Uzumaki Mito said matter-of-factly, "I am a child." Naruto didn't say anything more. He pointed below the city tower. "He is in the hot pot restaurant in front. If you want to see him, I will send you there." Uzumaki Mito immediately shook her head. "No, he is too ugly." Naruto felt that Hashirama was quite handsome. The age of this resurrection was about 23 or 24 years old, which was definitely at the peak. So he helped Hashirama. "He is not ugly. He is quite handsome. Look at the video, when he walked past, many girls secretly looked over." Uzumaki Mito didn't care and shook her head. "Not as handsome as you is ugly." Well, Naruto suddenly didn't know what to say. "Since you don't want to see him, then don't. Go and play." Uzumaki Mito didn't leave. She said while blowing the windmill, "You said you will resurrect me after you get married, right?" Naruto nodded. Uzumaki Mito held the windmill with both hands and said pitifully, "You are getting married tomorrow, 1 day won't matter, right? Can you resurrect me today?" Today? Could it be? Uzumaki Mito actually wanted to see Hashirama? She just didn't want to see him as the Edo Tensei? He couldn't guess what a girl was thinking. But with Naruto's understanding of girls, they definitely wanted to show their most beautiful appearance to their beloved. "Okay, I promise you." Naruto took Uzumaki Mito and disappeared. When they reappeared, they were already at the altar under the palace. This altar was prepared by Naruto for Gedo Reincarnation Heavenly Voice. It could help reduce the difficulty of resurrection and reduce Chakra's exhaustion. Stand in the array. Put the windmill aside first. Uzumaki Mito obediently did as she was told. Naruto waved his hand, and a prisoner on death row appeared in his hand. He threw him on the ground. Poor guy, tomorrow is the day of amnesty, but it seems that you won't be able to wait. I will give you one last chance to surrender. The prisoner looked at Naruto and took a few steps back in fear. Please let me go. You really caught the wrong person. I am not here to assassinate. I was framed. Naruto looked at the prisoner. The prisoner knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. Naruto's reincarnation Sharingan was clear. The prisoner seemed to be kneeling on the ground, but in fact, he was bending his legs to gather strength, and this guy didn't really kneel. The moment he finished gathering strength, the prisoner suddenly rushed to Uzumaki Mito, grabbed her in his hand, and laughed wildly, "Let me go, or I will kill her." This scene seems to have happened before. Naruto took a deep breath and looked at the prisoner with pity. This girl Uzumaki Mito was also interesting. Obviously, the body of the Edo Tensei couldn't be threatened, but she still had a frightened look on her face. She was so anxious that she was about to cry. She looked at Naruto pitifully, and her face was full of, "Come and save me. Did you hear me? Take me out of here. Let me out. Otherwise, I will break this little girl's neck." The prisoner shouted hysterically. Naruto encouraged him. "Try it if you have the ability." The prisoner's hand on Uzumaki Mito's neck slowly tightened. Uzumaki Mito struggled, her hands grabbed the prisoner's hand, and stuck out her tongue in pain. Naruto looked at Uzumaki Mito's performance. In fact, the life of the body of the Edo Tensei had stopped, and there was no need to breathe. In other words, choking the neck was useless. But Uzumaki Mito's performance was really on point. Could it be that she watched too many virtual reality movies? Or were all girls drama queens? No matter what the reason was, Naruto felt that it was quite interesting and continued to watch. After a while, when Uzumaki Mito's neck was broken and then reconnected, the prisoner's expression would be wonderful. He should be scared out of his wits, right? Naruto looked forward to it. The prisoner stared at Naruto's hand and continued to increase the strength. But before the neck was broken, Uzumaki Mito suddenly turned around and punched the prisoner's crotch. The prisoner's eyes widened and even bulged out. Naruto. This wasn't a smile. The prisoner's expression and the little girl's satisfied movements made Naruto feel a chill in his crotch. Then, the moment the prisoner let go of his hand in pain, the little girl did a shoulder throw. The prisoner's head hit the ground, and his neck was directly nailed into his chest. The scene was so cruel that he couldn't bear to look at it. "You didn't save me. Humph. I'm angry." Naruto smacked his lips and took a small step back, fearing that the little girl would come over and do the same thing to him. He changed the topic and said, "Well, while he's still alive, let's sacrifice him." Naruto's hands nimbly formed a seal. Gedo Reincarnation Heavenly Technique. Chapter 679. It's only been a few months, and the newly established Mingdu Empire is already so lively. Naruto is really unpredictable. Shunshui leaned against the window, looking at the bustling crowd below. She couldn't help but sigh. Naruto has established his own country, then can he continue to support the Snow Country in the future? The current prosperity of the Snow Country is brought by Naruto. Shunshui believes that it won't be long before the Mingdu Empire in front of her becomes another Snow Country. And then the Mingdu Empire will easily surpass the Snow Country. And then Naruto will help the Snow Country out of their past relationship. Even when she was alive, the Snow Country was absolutely safe. But after that, after she left, what about those people who were originally proud of the people of the Snow Country? Gradual decline? Until they become the dust of history? That kind of ending is really miserable. Whenever Shunshui thought of this, her heart felt as if it was stuffed with a big stone. So, she made a bold decision. This decision is to give away the Snow Country as a gift on the day of Naruto's wedding. That's right, she decided to step down from her position. To put it nicely, she will seal Uzumaki Naruto as the next generation of monarch. To put it bluntly, it's not wrong to say that she betrayed her country for glory. But it's different from ordinary betrayals. The glory she seeks is not for herself, but for the future of the Snow Country. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's arrival. When it arrives, I can see what kind of expression that guy will have. Usually, he's almost always indifferent. This time I can surprise him, right? But I don't want tomorrow to come too early. I've only been a princess for 3 years. Feng Hua Snowy muttered to herself. At the same time, Naruto completed the ritual of resurrecting Uzumaki Mito. The resurrected Uzumaki Mito is still the size of an 11 or 12-year-old child, blinking her big eyes and looking confused. At a glance, one can tell that it's the Uzumaki Mito that Naruto knows. I'm really resurrected? Uzumaki Mito pinched her face in surprise. Whether it was the sense of touch or the feeling, it was different from the Edo Tensei. Uzumaki Mito felt the warmth of the palm of his hand, as well as the texture of the skin on his face, and his heart was naturally overjoyed. I really came back to life. Uzumaki Mito jumped in front of Naruto. Jumping on the spot, he jumped into Naruto's arms and bumped into his chest. Her fair and delicate arms were wrapped around Naruto's chest. Then, like a little monkey climbing a tree, it climbed onto Naruto's neck. Naruto only thought that the little girl was too happy and didn't stop her. Well, you've really been resurrected. In the future, you can grow from a little girl to a great beauty. Uzumaki Mito listened to Naruto's words, and her eyes shone brightly. Can Mito have children? Naruto replied, Of course you can, but you'll have to wait until you grow up. The joy on Uzumaki Mito's face was even stronger when she heard that she could have children. Naruto raised his hand and took the little girl off his body and put her on the ground. You'll be a real girl in the future. You can't climb on others like this, especially men. Uzumaki Mito's eyes rolled, and no one knew what she was thinking. Naruto probed, I'm going to see your ex-husband. Do you want to go with me? Uzumaki Mito picked up the windmill that was thrown on the ground before and ran away. No, I have more important things to do. Naruto watched Uzumaki Mito leave and muttered to himself, she should be shy. But, if Mito really has no interest in First Dame Naruto, then I don't have to be too merciful. Why did he resurrect Uzumaki Mito today? The main reason was that Uzumaki Mito proposed it herself. Secondly, when he gets married tomorrow, there will be amnesty. At that time, the prison cells will be empty, and it will be troublesome to find the death row prisoners. Naruto looked at the corpse on the ground. The vitality in the corpse was all extracted. He couldn't be any more dead. Naruto waved his hand and the corpse on the ground turned into flying ash. Then he disappeared out of thin air and reappeared at the door of the hot pot restaurant. There were a lot of people in the hot pot restaurant. Naruto walked past the crowd. Strangely, these people didn't seem to see Naruto and did their own things. Naruto walked through the crowd calmly like a wisp of smoke with a strange movement technique. She stopped in front of a table with 2 male guests. Long time no see. I ordered people to open this restaurant. The taste is good, right? Naruto looked at Hashirama with a smile. Hashirama's action of blowing the mutton froze, then he continued to blow twice, dipped it in sesame sauce and stuffed it into his mouth. He praised, "Phew, delicious." Naruto turned his head to look at Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara had a pair of Rinnegan in his eyes, one of which Naruto recognized as Uchiha Itachi's. The other. Naruto felt the breath of Obito from it. First time meeting, I am the master of this city you want to see. You can call me Naruto. Uchiha Madara stared at Naruto's eyes and wondered, are these my eyes? Why did they become like this? Naruto replied, kind of, as for the change, maybe because I like red. Uchiha Madara continued to ask, how does it feel to be the human pillar force of the Jubi? Naruto shook his head and sighed. It's not ideal. It's annoying to have a preaching person in my ear. The preaching person was naturally Otsutsuki Kagaya. Kagaya rolled her eyes and was too lazy to comment. After Naruto answered Uchiha Madara's question, he said to Hashirama, "I came here today to ask you about something. It's about Orochimaru. Orochimaru reincarnated you in the Edo Tensei, so where is he? Was he also chosen by the old man of 6 paths?" Hashirama ate the meat and asked, "You haven't caught Orochimaru yet?" Naruto didn't answer and continued to wait for the next words. Hashirama looked at Naruto and ate a few pieces of lamb before saying, "I don't know. I climbed out of the coffin. The first person I saw when I woke up died after resurrecting me. As for Orochimaru, I didn't see him." Hearing Hashirama's words, Naruto asked, "Can you tell me who resurrected you?" Hashirama pointed to Uchiha Madara. "You ask him, he's from their clan. Both Uchiha Obito and Uchiha Itachi are from the Uchiha clan." Naruto looked at Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara simply said, "Uchiha Itachi." Uchiha Itachi? This is difficult. He promised Sasuke that Itachi is alive. Naruto looked at Uchiha Madara's Rinnegan. The only way now is to take Itachi's Rinnegan, and then resurrect him in the Edo Tensei. You really don't know about Orochimaru? Before that, it would be better to know about Orochimaru. Hashirama shook his head. Naruto didn't ask and changed the topic. "Since we meet today, let's talk about things between us. Now that the 6 paths has resurrected you, how are you going to deal with me?" Hashirama replied, "I was going to wait until you get married, so that your life will be complete. But you have to come out. Can we pretend that we haven't met?" Hashirama's face was awkward. Naruto readily said, "Of course I'll leave now. You two can eat as much as you want." After saying that, Naruto disappeared. Only Madara and Hashirama were left looking at each other. That guy is really leaving just like that. The lamb on Hashirama's chopsticks fell into the sesame sauce, and the sesame sauce splashed all over Hashirama's body. Madara was speechless. He took a deep breath and then exhaled. He said it's his treat, so let's continue to eat. Hashirama nodded and shouted, "10 more plates of mutton for table 12. By the way, your boss said that we can eat as much as he wants, right?" The waitress who came over was embarrassed and didn't know how to answer. At this time, the owner of the hot pot restaurant came over and smiled. "You two came to eat in the restaurant, of course, it's free of charge." The owner of the hot pot restaurant was Kisame Kisame. Then, under the command of Kisame, someone quickly came up with 10 plates of lamb. After Naruto returned to the palace, he thought alone. He was thinking about what the 6-path sage was going to do. Uchiha Madara and Hashirama didn't have the Inyong mark on them. Is he not going to seal him? So is he going to fight? Naruto didn't think that those two were his opponents. He said that he was waiting for me to get married, but he was actually waiting for Otsutsuki Tonari? Naruto touched his chin and couldn't help but speculate maliciously. He immediately dialed Tobirama's number. After Naruto unified the countries, Tobirama was very respectful to Naruto. "What can I do for you?" Naruto immediately told him about the resurrection of his brother, Hashirama. Tobirama was shocked. "My brother was resurrected? Isn't my brother's body with Orochimaru? Did you find Orochimaru?" Naruto replied, "No, I didn't resurrect your brother. I won't tell you the details. You know that your brother is resurrected. If you want to see him, you can go to Kisame's hot pot restaurant." Tobirama heard that Naruto didn't say the reason and didn't ask how his brother was resurrected. He asked directly, "Is your brother an enemy or a friend?" Naruto didn't hide it. "Enemy." Tobirama was silent, and his voice didn't fluctuate, and he replied, "Then don't let Tsunade know about this." Naruto nodded and agreed. "But it doesn't seem appropriate to hide it. Tomorrow is his wedding, and Tsunade will naturally attend the wedding day. He only hopes that Hashirama will not attack on the wedding day as he said." Naruto shook his head. He couldn't help but think that it would be great if he could solve Hashirama today. He went to see the two people today, and he also estimated the strength of those two people. If they really want to fight, I'm afraid it won't be solved in a day or two. At that time, it would definitely affect his wedding, so Naruto left very decisively. The war will be arranged after the wedding. He hung up the phone call with Tobirama. Naruto thought about it and called Tsunade. Naturally, it's not because of Hashirama, but because he promised Tsunade to resurrect Kato Duan. What's the matter? Hinata brat, I just finished talking to you, and now you're here again. You two must be planning something. You don't want me to be free. Naruto wondered, why is Hinata looking for you? Tsunade replied leisurely, what else can it be? I'm getting married tomorrow. As a girl, of course, I'm surprised, happy, and nervous. Why, you're not nervous. Do you want me to enlighten you? Naruto smiled and replied, do you think I'm a nervous person? Tsunade's image stared at Naruto for a long time. Seeing that Naruto was not nervous, she said, not nervous. Then why are you looking for me? Naruto said directly, after the wedding, in order to celebrate, the world will be pardoned. When the prison is empty, it won't be so easy to find the death row prisoners. So I want to resurrect Kato Duan today. Speaking of Kato Duan, Tsunade's face showed a different color, and the lazy and playful look disappeared. Her eyebrows wrinkled, and she even began to bite her fingers. After a while, it seemed that someone came to visit Tsunade. Naruto saw Tsunade glancing at other places. He said impatiently, who is it? According to the inference of the position of the scenery in the projection, the place where Tsunade should be looking should be the door. Naruto multitasking brought up the image of Tsunade's door. Coincidentally, it turned out to be Jiraiya. Jiraiya was holding a large number of red roses, and his hair was meticulously combed. His appearance was funny. Wait a minute, I'll go and see who pressed the doorbell. I promise I won't cripple him. Tsunade turned off the image, and Naruto continued to peek with his 5 stars authority. It didn't take long for Tsunade to open the door. Seeing that it was Jiraiya holding the flowers, he accepted the flowers, and then was kicked away. Don't bother me today. Then, with a bang, the door was closed. After being kicked away, Jiraiya crawled back, hesitating whether to continue knocking on the door. But the pain was real. Should he knock or not? Jiraiya took out 2 movie tickets. He sat at Tsunade's door and pondered. Naruto looked at Jiraiya with interest. About 10 minutes later, Naruto received a video call from Tsunade. Let's talk about resurrecting Kato later, I haven't thought about it yet. Naruto didn't ask much, and Naruto guessed some of it. Jiraiya's kick was worth it in his heart. Finally, Tsunade told Naruto a few words, such as to dress up handsome tomorrow, don't embarrass Hinata, and hung up the phone. Naruto continued to peek at Jiraiya. Jiraiya sat at the door scratching his head. Naruto stretched his hand forward, silently appeared at Tsunade's door through space, and then pressed the doorbell. The angry Tsunade rushed out after hearing the doorbell. She saw Jiraiya holding the movie tickets with a blank face. Tsunade stopped her foot that was about to shoot and asked, "You want to treat me to a movie?" Jiraiya nodded again and again. Tsunade frowned, and after a while, she made a decision, let's go, but before that, I want to have a meal. Jiraiya quickly replied, no problem. The two left together. Jiraiya was in pain from the kick, and his face was bitter. Tsunade was a little ashamed. Does it hurt? Jiraiya waved his hand again and again. It doesn't hurt, I'm used to it. Tsunade couldn't help but laugh when she heard that. She raised her hand and reached out to Jiraiya. Jiraiya thought Tsunade was going to beat him again, and he was so nervous that his shiny hair exploded again. He took half a step back. Tsunade laughed and said, I won't beat you, I'll help you look at your injury. Jiraiya was stunned. At this time, Tsunade made him feel a gentleness that only ordinary women had. He couldn't help but feel flattered. He let down his guard, and Tsunade's hand came close, and suddenly slapped Jiraiya to the ground. Sorry, I don't know why I still want to slap you. This scene made Naruto laugh. Chapter 680. After talking to Tsunade, Naruto thought about who else needs to be resurrected. Kabuto Yakushi. 1. Sasori's parents. 2. Haku and Zabuza. 2. And then Uchiha Itachi. Is there anyone else? That's 6 people. It's impossible to resurrect them in one day. The consumption is too high. There's another point. The stronger the resurrected person, the more Naruto's consumption. Kabuto Yakushi was a jonin, and Sasori's parents died in the hands of Hatake White Fang. Haku and Zabuza are 2 jonins. Uchiha Itachi. This guy is a real Kage. So, resurrecting Itachi is equal to the sum of the previous 5. System prompt, Tensigen Soul number 0001 requests a video call. The Tensigen Soul is the remnant soul in the 1500 Byakugan that make up the Tensigen. This person is on the spiritual network. It seems that the puppet is ready. Naruto answered the call. A handsome young man appeared in front of Naruto. Sorry to disturb Mingdi-sama. The young man came up and bowed to Naruto. It seems that he has recognized his identity as a big boss. Naruto nodded and said, "It's okay. Your identity is special. If there's something important, you can report it to me directly." The young man was expressionless. To be precise, he couldn't make any expression. Because of the short time, the new puppet's face was not equipped with facial muscles. On behalf of the Otsutsuki clan, I would like to ask Mingdi-sama about something that our entire clan is very concerned about. After our clan learned that Mingdi-sama can resurrect the dead, many people want to ask for your help. I don't know what the conditions are for you to resurrect them. Resurrection again? Naruto's mouth twitched. He didn't want to take a 1,500 Ryo resurrection order. He replied, "You can ask me again when you've paid off the puppet's debt." The young man bowed to Naruto. I'll bring back Mingdi-sama's answer. Sorry to disturb your rest. His attitude was very good. Naruto liked people with good attitudes. He nodded and encouraged them. As long as you work hard, you will be able to get an equivalent return from me. You have a bright future ahead of you, so work hard and do your best. The young man bowed again. Naruto pondered for a moment after the young man left. Recalling the young man's appearance, he felt somewhat unfamiliar. With Naruto's abnormal memory, he was certain that there was no such person among the 1,500 people. Then, with a thought, Naruto called out the Tensigen Undead serial number 0001. The picture of an old man was attached to it. Naruto's mouth twitched. This guy was actually that venerable old man. Then, was his appearance an optimization? Or was it his younger self? Looking for other people, Naruto found that 0002 also looked like this. He flipped again, and it was still the same. Flip again. It turned out that all male puppets looked the same while female puppets looked different. Alright, Naruto suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of joy when he imagined that neat and tidy face. But there was also a kind of creepy feeling. Would such a wedding turn into a supernatural event? Naruto opened the chat group of the Tensigen puppet production team. There were 6 people in the chat group, Sakura Haruno, Aster, and Naruto in total. I say, make another 1,500 masks. Otherwise, the 1,500 teams with only 2 appearances would be too creepy. Naruto suggested. Sakura Haruno immediately agreed. It was indeed creepy. When I was assembling it, the whole room of puppets was so scary that my scalp was numb. She even trembled as she said it, as if she was recalling an unbearable memory. Gurney was a little tired this time. You want to make 1,500 masks? Do you need 1,500 different styles? Naruto, that's not necessary. Just put a number on each mask. Wait, let me try. Naruto raised his hand. Yin-Yang release. Creation. A mask appeared in Naruto's hand. It was metallic and very thin. With a thought, Naruto turned the mask into a white-silver color. If he directly created 1,500 masks, it might not be too difficult. Just as he was about to do it, Naruto saw a tree on the side. Naruto's eyes lit up. If it's made of wood, it'll be even easier. Naruto came in front of the tree and pressed his hand on the trunk. Yin-yang release. Wood release. Create. A new branch sprouted from the trunk, and a piece of wood grew from the tip of the new branch. The piece of wood grew from small to large and soon formed a wooden mask. The mask was exquisite, and the wood texture had a different kind of beauty. Perfect. Yin-yang release. Wood release. Copy. Several branches sprouted at the same time, and 1,500 masks were completed. Naruto used wood release to control the wooden masks and left a number on each mask. Done. With a single thought, the masks fell like ripe fruits one after another. Once it's done, distribute these masks. Naruto used spatial teleportation to send the masks to the assembly warehouse. Gorny and the others were overjoyed, and naturally flattering words were not lacking. Naruto, why don't you come help us? There are still 800 puppets that haven't been assembled yet. I didn't want to ask for your help, but... Before Sakura Haruno could finish, Naruto agreed. Assembling puppets was a very tiring job. He had a deep understanding of this. With a thought, he created 100 doppelgangers and sent them over. When Sakura Haruno saw the 100 doppelgangers of Naruto, it was as if she saw her savior. She was very pleased with herself. See, I told you, if we asked this guy for help earlier, it would have been over long ago. Little Gorny was a bit unhappy. But, these are the gifts we prepared for Naruto, Gidge. It's for the recipient to help. Under Naruto's control, Naruto's doppelganger patted the little girl's head. It's alright, I've already felt your intentions. Come, let's assemble them together. Actually, Naruto wanted to help, but, with Asta here, there was an inexplicable awkwardness. In the huge warehouse, Naruto's doppelganger worked under Naruto's control. The initial assembly of a puppet was divided into 3 steps: skeleton assembly, rune activation, and clothes. In fact, the perfect puppet also included muscle tissue, skin grafting, tactile and temperature sensing systems, bionic vocal cords, and so on. However, there wasn't enough time, so it was impossible to perfect it. A puppet's rune was activated, and the waiting soul entered it. The puppet system would help the soul adapt to its new body, and a clumsy fellow could be seen running and jumping from a stumbling gait to a clumsy one. Below the neck, there was only a basic skeleton, so the scene was very strange. It was very much like the resurrection of the undead. Should I replace the heads of these fellows with skeletons and shoot a skull-themed virtual reality movie? Naruto muttered to himself. The timid Sakura Haruno shook her head and took a few steps away from Naruto. After the little skeleton adapted to its new body, it ran towards Naruto. Lord Naruto, they all said that you can resurrect the dead. How much do you need to pay to resurrect the dead? The little skeleton was equipped with a simple electronic generator, so it sounded like it was facing a robot. Naruto controlled his doppelganger to reply, "Didn't your representative tell you?" The little skeleton hurriedly bowed and apologized. He said he did, but if we can resurrect the dead, we don't need puppets anymore. Then why do we need to borrow points to buy puppets? We can borrow points to ask Lord Naruto to resurrect us. This little puppet really knew how to live. Naruto replied, "But without puppets, how do you work to earn points?" The little skeleton bowed again and explained, "We can use our original puppets." Original puppets, this answer. There was nothing wrong with it, and it was very witty. Naruto smiled and said, "You don't have to bow every time I speak. I'm not that scary. How about this, I'll tell you, and you can pass my words back to them. For a position that requires carpenters, the minimum requirement for the applicant is to be a carpenter. Am I right?" The little skeleton nodded obediently. The face above the neck of the skeleton was that of a girl. Naruto continued, "The carpentry skill is a carpenter's professional accomplishment. And the person I want to hire also has a corresponding professional accomplishment. This accomplishment is a sufficiently strong and perfect puppet. Do you understand? You have to have a perfect puppet before you are qualified to work for me and earn points." The little skeleton was confused by Naruto's words. It felt that something wasn't right, but it couldn't tell what it was. In the end, it nodded blankly, bowed again, and passed on the message. The 1,500 souls were having an intense debate in the Eye of Reincarnation. I feel that something isn't right. I also feel that something isn't right. Everyone was racking their brains. When Naruto assembled more than 100 puppets, a small puppet finally came over. Lord Naruto, can we do this? You have to borrow enough points to resurrect us first. After we are resurrected, we will work for you. This was something that 1,500 dead souls found wrong in the heated debate. They could return the points after they were resurrected. That way, they would lose the puppet's share. For a moment, an emotion of, so that's how it is, I'm very clever, spread across the faces of the 1,500 souls. Naruto controlled the clone and replied with a smile, as puppets, you existed before the destruction of the Tensigen. I have seen the ability of the Tensigen. It can absorb the energy of the outside world for its own use. To put it simply, it has a certain divine characteristic. In the absence of external destruction, as long as there is energy in the outside world, it is indestructible. As puppets, you have a very long time, which can be understood as the date of repayment. And if you are resurrected, with your individual characteristics, you will die of old age in 100 years. To put it simply, if you are resurrected, you won't have enough ability to work for me and return points. You asked me how much it costs to resurrect you. I only ask you, other than me, can anyone resurrect you? In that case, its value could be 10 times that of a puppet. It could also be 100 times, or even more. Of course, it's not endless. Let's put it this way, resurrecting the dead is my unique gift. It is not something that can be exchanged for with a clear price. Do you understand? The wisdom of the 1,500 souls was disintegrated at this moment. Their witty expression was instantly replaced by the same look of defeat. Naruto continued, when you have a perfect puppet, you can do anything at this stage except for giving birth. So, you are actually very lucky to have your current characteristics. And you are even luckier to have met me. I will give you a very loose time of freedom. I will not stop you from developing your personality, and I will not treat you as machines to serve me constantly. Naruto's voice paused, giving the undead time to think. Then, after a while, he continued, if you really want to resurrect, it is not difficult. As long as you serve me sincerely, as long as you play your value in the next 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or even beyond. When one day you are tired and don't want to stay in this world anymore, you can make a request to me. You can die immediately, or sleep, or be resurrected to experience life and death, all are possible. The premise is that you have to prove your value first. Value is qualification, which can also be understood as merit and glory. Do you understand? After that, there were no more little skeletons to reason with Naruto. Naruto was also happy to do so. The dressed puppets began to gather and chat in 2s and 3s, or take a walk outside. Just like Naruto said, in the absence of a mission, there is no restriction on their freedom. The little puppets taking a walk were soon seen by Scorpion. Scorpion had a special preference for puppets. When he was in the snow country, he saw some housework robots, but he had a feeling that the ones in front of him were different. They seemed to be alive. Scorpion began to eavesdrop on their conversation and began to check their information. However, this part of the information was not recorded in the database yet. Therefore, the page showed, not recorded, or not enough authority. Scorpion tried to talk, but those guys ignored him. That was not right, but when it came to the key question, do you want to know? Then you have to ask Lord Ming. Naruto, are those puppets? Naruto smiled. Interested? Well, come and help me install them. Then, he sent the address of the warehouse. Scorpion rushed over at his fastest speed. These puppets are so simple and crude. Scorpion looked at the skeletons of the puppets and shook his head. Naruto took out a complete version. What about this? Scorpion was shocked. This is a puppet? However, he was also puzzled. Puppets don't have to be so real, right? This kind of skin grafting is useless in battle, right? Scorpion stroked the puppet's skin. It was elastic, but there was no more feeling. He was a puppet to begin with. Naruto controlled the doppelganger to reply, "Of course it is useful, because they are all alive. Gueyezi, come here. This complete body is yours." Naruto called out. In the world that Scorpion could not see, Gueyezi, who was in the queue, ran over happily under the jealous gazes of all the people in the queue. Then, the motionless puppet suddenly opened its eyes. She was shy. "Sir, how long are you going to touch it?" Scorpion's hand was still on the puppet's waist. Seeing that the puppet suddenly came to life, he was stunned on the spot. Naturally, his hand was still in the same place. Otsutsuki Katsuragi asked Naruto, "Musi-sama, can I beat him up?" Naruto felt that it was interesting and replied, "Of course you can." Then, Gueyezi kicked Scorpion's face. Scorpion's reaction was extremely fast. He connected the puppet's strings to the ground behind him and used his fastest reaction to pull himself away from the original spot, avoiding Gueyezi's attack. Gueyezi stopped. Naruto encouraged, "Continue to beat him up. It's a good opportunity to experience the performance of this body. Let your people see it too." Chapter 681. Gueyezi's System Panel. Target locked successfully. Target information obtained, insufficient authority. As soon as the information of insufficient authority flashed, it was immediately changed to authority passed in the next moment. Obtained high-level authority special grant. Authority passed. Target, Sasori gender, male danger level, 4 stars, Kage level, body characteristics, puppet transformation. Ninjutsu characteristics. Puppet technique. Ninjutsu record, red secret technique, 100 machine drill, ninjutsu details. Weakness, 1. Fatal position. Puppet core. 2. Chakra line. Countermeasures generated, system warning. The first weakness analysis was rejected. Reason for rejection. Not a desperate fight. System prompt. The second one passed. Countermeasures generated successfully. Block the target's combat mode with Chakra Scalpel. Detecting that the host is a non-medical ninja, the system grants the host Chakra Scalpel Ninjutsu rune. System prompt. Do you accept the Chakra Scalpel rune granted by the system? After Gueyezi received a series of information, she was stunned. Naruto's voice sounded in her ear. Accept. Using the system to assist in combat, this is also the combat mode you need to get used to in the future. Gueyezi obeyed the choice to accept, and the next moment, 2 rune patterns extended on Gueyezi's arms. Naruto said to Sasori, "You can compare notes. If you win, I will resurrect your parents." Resurrection. For a moment, everyone present was shocked. Among them, the most shocked was the undead in the eyes of reincarnation. Just now, Naruto told them how great the cost of resurrection was, and now they can be resurrected after a fight? And there are 2 of them. Sasori didn't doubt Naruto's words at all, and he was the first to react. He immediately launched a fierce attack on Gueyezi who hadn't recovered yet. A black whip like a scorpion's tail shot directly from Sasori's abdomen. It hit Gueyezi's head. Gueyezi didn't react, but the system's perception system had already captured all of Sasori's movements and immediately issued a warning to Gueyezi. Gueyezi subconsciously cooperated with the system's prediction and narrowly avoided the attack. Then the 2 fought together. Sasori used Chakra Line to assist in the battle, and Gueyezi frequently cut off Sasori's Chakra Line. For a while, the fight was very lively. Then could Gueyezi defeat Scorpion? If it was just a normal sparring session, Naruto felt that it was still possible if Naruto didn't say that sentence. However, Scorpion had already fallen into madness. Spirit communication technique. Sasori summoned the Kazekage's puppet. The pitch-black iron sand rolled around with a rustling sound, forming a defensive barrier while condensing into small particles. Magnetic escape. Tai Sha Shigya. Naruto raised his hand, and a four-sided barrier enveloped the two of them. Gue Yezi's movements were extremely fast. The so-called imitation muscle system was not just for show. Every muscle fiber contained explosive power. However, the space here was too small, and the sand rain was boundless, covering all directions. Gue Yezi wanted to hide, but there was nowhere to hide. System alert. Level 1 chakra at station has been activated. A pale yellow barrier appeared in front of Kayako. When the iron sand hit the shield, it was as if it had fallen into a swamp. The closer it got to the cassia leaf, the slower it became. But after penetrating 5 centimeters, it sped up again. Obviously, a level 1 shield was not enough to completely block the iron sand attack. System notification. Chakra Energy Supply Channel Upgrade Request. Chakra Energy Supply Channel Upgrade Request approved. With Chakra's input, the at-station shield was upgraded to level 2. The pale yellow barrier shield turned dark yellow. System notification. This operation consumes 5 chakra energy per second. Please end the battle as soon as possible. Gue Yezi's legs burst with power and broke through the sand rain with the shield in front of Scorpion. Scorpion's hand seals, and the iron sand condensed from the scattered sand into a huge triangular cone. Magnetic escape. Iron sand attack. The dark yellow shield was broken. System notification. Chakra Energy Channel Upgrade Request. Insufficient authority. The huge triangular cone was about to suppress Gue Yezi. Gue Yezi communicated with the Tensigen and subconsciously used the previous summon. An energy ball appeared in Gue Yezi's hand. At the same time, the system notification sounded again. New energy channel found. Connect. Connect. In an instant, the system connected to the Tensigen. A huge amount of energy poured in, and chakras at station was instantly activated. The dark yellow barrier directly turned green. Chakras at station was upgraded to San level. Dark green. Level 4. Light blue. Level 5. Dark blue. Level 6. Light purple. Level 7. Dark purple. Level 8. Light red. Dark red. Level 10. The change from level 1 to level 10 happened in the blink of an eye, and even Naruto didn't expect this change. The triangular cone hit the dark red shield, and the shield's recoil was sent out, and the iron sand was shattered. Gue Yezi wanted to move, but the high concentration of chakra pressed her and she couldn't react. The red barrier expanded around, and at the moment of contact with Sandaime Kazakage's puppet body was instantly shaken and erased. The red halo continued to push, and Scorpion retreated vigilantly, but where could he hide in the enclosed space? The unprecedented crisis made Scorpion disheartened for a while. He seemed to have seen himself being erased like Sandaime Kazakage's puppet body. I'm going to die. Father and mother can't be resurrected. Gue Yezi stared. The system panel jumped. System prompt. Chakra's energy channel is forcibly closed. System prompt. Chakras at field is lifted. The red chakra's shield was only a millimeter away from the tip of Scorpion's nose. Bang! The shield dissipated, and Scorpion slumped down against the 4 sides of the barrier. Scorpion originally thought that as a puppet, he couldn't feel fear, but this time he really felt it. It was the spiritual power generated by the high concentration of chakra gathered together. The 4 sides of the barrier were lifted, and Naruto was very happy. Chakras at field required double the amount of chakras at field every time it was upgraded. It was only upgraded to level 5 in the experimental stage, and he didn't expect it to go directly to level 10 this time. It was the first time Naruto saw this kind of power. How is it? How is this puppet's ability compared to yours in the past? Naruto asked Gue Yezi, who was already shocked. Gue Yezi replied with a lisp. Strong? It's really much stronger. Naruto nodded with a smile. He looked at Scorpion again, and the puppet's face was dispirited. Scorpion! Naruto called out. Scorpion raised his head in a daze and muttered to himself, I lost. Naruto could see that Scorpion was dealt a heavy blow. Don't be too disheartened, as long as you're willing to consume chakras at field, you can use it too. Scorpion's expression was dull, and he was unmoved. Naruto continued, well, I'll give you another chance, help me set up the puppets here, and I'll help you resurrect your parents. Scorpion's eyes finally came alive, and he looked at Naruto with an expression of disbelief. Gue Yezi also had an expression of disbelief. And all the souls in the eyes of reincarnation who were watching here. Was this Emperor Ming so easy to talk to? Those souls who weren't familiar with Naruto had a new understanding of Naruto. At the same time, they felt a sense of relief about their future. Naruto didn't know what they were thinking, and he didn't care. He recorded the scene just now and sent it to Uzumaki Mito and Big Fatty. In the chat group of the highest level research group of the snow-capped mountain. After Big Fatty finished reading, a pair of big owl-like eyes became brighter. Miss Mito's theory is actually feasible. Big Fatty usually called Mito's name directly, and now that Miss Mito was added, there were some sighs and some flattery. But in general, most of them were joking. But with such a huge energy output, how many times can the Tenseigan withstand? Naruto's main body went to check the state of the Tenseigan. Replied, the Tenseigan itself is not damaged, and the lost energy has been replenished. Big Fatty was surprised. With this thing, it's much stronger than the 18-core chakra fusion array. Boss, connect the system to the Tenseigan. With its characteristics of storing souls, it can definitely store spiritual data. This thing can be used as a server. What Big Fatty said was also Naruto's thoughts. Replied, this is not urgent, wait until I get the control method from Otsutsuki Tonari. Big Fatty thought for a while and said, then, does the Tenseigan of Hinata's sister-in-law also have this ability? Naruto glanced at Big Fatty. You dare to have ideas about your sister-in-law? Big Fatty's big rolling eyes blinked pitifully. I'm just asking, I didn't say I would use her eyes. But, boss, I don't know if I should say something. Do you want to resurrect a few people of the Otsutsuki clan? Then with the encouragement of reproduction, we can harvest a few more waves of Byakugan, so that we can form the second and third. This kind of completely raising people like cattle and sheep, only Big Fatty could say such words. After all, its position is not the position of a human, and there are no moral constraints. As for Naruto, he looked at Uzumaki Mito. Uzumaki Mito nodded and said, this is a good idea, we can wait for them to be old and let them donate their Byakugan before they die. As long as they are willing, we will give their children and grandchildren a good reward, or a higher social status. This suggestion is really feasible. Isn't the donation of corneas an example? Naruto nodded and shook his head from time to time. Let's put this aside first, we will talk about it later. With the energy system of the entire world, even if we can make a second or third, it is not good to have more. Energy can flow and be recycled, but if too much is extracted at the same time, the world will collapse. That is tantamount to killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. Big Fatty laughed and said, if this world can't bear it, it can be thrown into other worlds. If this thing is used as a pump, the energy will be continuously sucked back. Then this world may be upgraded. Can the world be upgraded? Maybe it can. Naruto nodded. Let's talk about this later. He turned to Mito and said, you have been studying Tenseigan, draft this plan. Mito nodded in agreement. Big Fatty didn't want to do it and said pitifully, boss, I have a lot of free time recently, can you let me join in as well? Then he held up his furry, stout owl foot. Naruto laughed, okay, you can also study it, but you two shouldn't study in the same direction. How many years does the owl's lifespan have left? You should study the soul storage aspect, that way after you die, you can still use a puppet to replace your body like those dead souls. Big Fatty's eyes lit up when he heard that. He originally planned to use Edo Tensei, but now it seems that it is more convenient to store souls. Alright, I promise I will not disappoint you. As the discussion came to an end, Scorpion used 100 machine manipulation to assemble all the puppets. Then he found Naruto. Naruto revived Scorpion's parents as promised. Seeing the family reunited, Naruto felt that he did a good thing. The rules of life and death cannot be easily broken. Hagoromo's voice suddenly appeared in his ears. Naruto didn't mind and replied, "Old man, didn't you also revive 2 people? Don't tell me Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara were also revived by me." Hagoromo didn't answer. Naruto didn't see Hagoromo, as the voice appeared out of nowhere. After an unknown amount of time, a sigh was heard. "Anyway, don't disturb those who are sleeping in the Pure Land. Doing so will only cause a greater disaster." Naruto scoffed. "The Pure Land? Where is it? Don't try to scare me with a place that doesn't exist." Hagoromo smiled. "You want to know where the Pure Land is? Very soon, you will see it. The living shouldn't stare into the world of the dead. When you look at them, they will also see you." Naruto's expression darkened. He spread his inner sight to search for Hagoromo's traces. Finally, Naruto saw a trace of him in the system network, but it was only a fleeting glimpse before it disappeared. Hagoromo invaded the system network. Naruto frowned, feeling that there was one more troublesome thing. "You're right, when you stare at me, I will also see you." Suddenly, Naruto felt that he was being watched. He scanned with his inner sight again, and the feeling disappeared again. Dead people. Inside Naruto's body, in the spiritual world, Naruto's hand tapped on the Shinigami's blade. "If you kill the living will die. Then if you kill the dead, will the dead come back to life?" Naruto muttered to himself. Preserved Egg suddenly replied, "Some worlds will, but it seems that you have to meet some strange requirements." "Well, I forgot. However, if I swallow it, it won't. If there really is, I will swallow as many as I want." Naruto raised his eyebrows. "Then you will have to wait until I get married." Scorpion couldn't hear the conversation between Naruto and Hagoromo. After hugging his parents, Scorpion knelt in front of Naruto. Naruto raised his hand and lifted Scorpion up. "It's a small matter, work harder in the future." Naruto sent Scorpion and his parents to Scorpion's residence with a thought. "Who is that person?" Scorpion's mother asked Scorpion. At this time, Scorpion's parents hadn't realized what had happened. They just recognized their son. Scorpion replied, "Maybe it's a god." Scorpion's father raised his hand and touched his son's head. Feeling that Scorpion's face and body were different, his body trembled. What happened? Scorpion thought for a moment and lifted his clothes. Scorpion's core on his left chest had an extra layer of protection under Naruto's reminder. "I made myself into a puppet." Chapter 682. After resurrecting Sasori's parents, Naruto found Haku. He resurrected Haku and Zabuza. Haku thought for a long time after learning that the current world was the Lord of the World, and Naruto was the Lord of the World. He was thinking about the question Naruto left him: what should he use in exchange? There was no answer. The difference in strength and status made Haku feel very confused. "No need to think about it, just follow me from now on." Naruto left these words and sent Haku and Zabuza to Haku's residence. Next, Naruto resurrected Yakushi Kabuto and Hirako. Because of the ghost sprout technique, Naruto kept Hirako alive. Hirako usually stayed by Yakushi Kabuto's side to study. The two of you should study the soul storage project with Fatty during this period of time. After all, the lifespan of a body is limited. If you can transform it into a replaceable artificial body, you can continue your research. The two accepted the order and left. Naruto stood in the formation and thought about who else needs to be resurrected. On the system page, there were still nearly 100 prisoners on death row in the Mingdu Imperial Prison. There were plenty of resources. Naruto thought about it and called Inazheim. Inazheim used to follow Hirako. Later she was summoned to the Snow Mountain to study and became his attendant for 3 years. She cooked for Naruto and Hinata for 3 years. "Inazheim, do you want to be resurrected?" Naruto's voice appeared in Inazheim's ears. Inazhime's expression was dignified. During the 3 years she stayed by Naruto's side, she had accumulated enough experience. It's all up to Mingdi-sama. In the next moment, space suddenly distorted, and Inazhime, who was in the snow mountain of the country of snow, was directly pulled to Naruto's side. Gedo reincarnation heavenly technique. Sacrifice. A prisoner on death row collapsed, and Inazhime's body was reconstructed under the rules of life and death. Inazhime was also resurrected. Then, who else? There was also Uchiha Itachi. However, Naruto didn't intend to resurrect him now. His wedding was already lively enough, and Naruto didn't want to look for trouble. So, that's it for now? It seems that Tsunade has no intention of resurrecting Kaito Duan. This is good. Compared to Kaito, Naruto wants Tsunade and Jiraiya to be together. In Naruto's view, Jiraiya and Tsunade were a good match except for their looks. And what about Tsunade's younger brother? Tsunade had no reason to forget her brother. But Tsunade didn't say anything about resurrecting. Naruto rubbed his chin and shook his head. Forget it. We'll talk about it when she wants to revive. In Naruto's opinion, Tsunade not resurrecting the rope tree should be related to Tobirama. Didn't Tobirama refuse the resurrection? Naruto stretched, and his figure disappeared from the magic circle, appearing in a courtyard near the Imperial City. The courtyard was filled with green trees and all kinds of flowers were in full bloom, creating a beautiful scene. Naruto, where is Obito? A voice came from behind. Naruto turned his head to look. It was Scale. The little girl's body grew quite fast, and she was half a head taller than when they first met. Her hair was also longer, and she wore a double ponytail that hung down to her butt. In the sun, the little girl's snow-white dress was shining. She was holding a black long-eared rabbit doll in her hand. Obito. He betrayed us. Naruto wanted to make an excuse, but in the end, he told the truth. Naruto stared at Scale. Scale frowned, and there was some hesitation and confusion on her face. It was as if he wasn't sure what he had just heard. What betrayed us? Naruto turned around and put his hands in his pockets. Under the sun, Naruto's shadow was slightly longer than his height, extending in the direction where Scale stood. Yes, he betrayed us, and we will be enemies when we meet again. After this addition, the meaning of Naruto's words was very clear as Scale under the sun. Clear and dazzling, making it impossible to look directly at it. Naruto observed Scale. Scale's existence didn't make sense, and there was no such person in the original world. But it made sense, after all, the Underground Exchange, an organization that should have been destroyed, survived because of his image. If Scale is Orochimaru, then it makes more sense. This idea has been lingering in Naruto's mind. But last time, Naruto checked Scale's memory. There was no trace of Orochimaru. Where did he go? Scale held the doll in her hand tightly. Naruto replied, I don't know, but he is an enemy. Are you going to find him? I think today or tomorrow, he should also appear here. Scale lowered her head and didn't answer, and the seal on her forehead was revealed. Seeing the seal, Naruto felt that Scale was more like a vessel for Orochimaru. Or a preparation vessel. Naruto had an idea in his mind. If Scale is Orochimaru, then marry her off. No matter who it is, then give birth to a bunch of little Orochimaru. It must be interesting to think about it. Then will you kill him the next time you see him? Scale's mood was very low. Naruto didn't hide and nodded readily. Well, I will kill him. I have let him go once, and I won't let him go again. Scale suddenly raised his head, stared at Naruto, and shouted angrily, I won't allow you to hurt him. If you kill him, I will. Naruto stood in place and continued to look at Scale indifferently. Scale gritted his teeth, let go of the rabbit, and quickly printed a seal. The spatial fluctuations formed ripples that enveloped Naruto. Naruto laughed. You want to use the trick I taught you to seal me? Banish me to the space turbulence? Scale stubbornly continued to stare at Naruto. If you don't kill him, I won't do it. Scale saw Naruto was still laughing and shouted, I am serious. If you don't promise me, I will banish you to the space turbulence now. Naruto's smile became sad, but that sadness could be seen at a glance. The disciple attacked the teacher, don't you think I reap what I sow? Scale hesitated, and the expression on his face became aggrieved. If you don't kill him, I won't do it. Naruto lifted his foot and walked towards Scale. The spatial ripples were in front of him, and if he took another step, he would step on the ripples. Scale panicked and controlled the sealed area to retreat. Naruto smiled and sped up, stepping on the ripple with one foot. Scale's eyes widened, and the bloody scene of broken bones did not appear. Instead, the spatial trap under the ripples was flattened by Naruto's foot. The sound of broken glass seemed to be heard. Moreover, it was a chain reaction, and the shattering sound was continuous. Scale's eyes widened. Naruto appeared in front of Scale, raised his hand and rubbed Scale's head. Silly girl, it's impossible to use the tricks I taught you to deal with me. Scale was so aggrieved that tears rolled in her eyes and flowed out. Then can you not kill him? I don't want him to die. Naruto continued to comb Scale's hair. If you do something wrong, you will be punished. Besides, death is also a relief for him. Scale's tears were more, and she muttered to herself, I don't want him to die. Naruto took back his hand and sighed, I don't want to, but he is not the person you and I know. Could Scale be Orochimaru? Could Orochimaru cry? Well, don't cry, as long as he doesn't appear in front of me, I am too lazy to look for him. Naruto touched Scale's small head again. It was rare to see Scale so docile and let him touch her head. After touching her head, Naruto turned around and disappeared. Scale shouldn't be Orochimaru. How could Orochimaru cry? Naruto returned to his residence and saw the Yondaime couple talking and laughing. After seeing Naruto, the smile on Naruto's face became more brilliant, and he was a little proud. It was as if he was overjoyed. This was a happy event. Naruto, our family is going to have double happiness. Double happiness? The first happiness should mean that he was going to get married, then the second. Namake's Minato was a very steady and somewhat elegant man. Something that could make him beam with joy. Naruto looked at Uzumaki Kushina. Uzumaki Kushina's face had a trace of shyness, and she hesitated to say it. Naruto, that Mom doesn't dislike you. I will continue to love you in the future. Hearing these two words, Naruto knew that his guess should be right. He smiled and said, I'm going to be an older brother? Uzumaki Kushina originally wanted to say a few more words, but after hearing Naruto's words, she was surprised and swallowed the rest of her words. Her mouth was half open, and her face was full of surprise. This is a good thing, I won't be jealous of my brother. Naruto's face bloomed with a smile. This time, it was a smile from the heart. There was no perfunctory. It was his idea to let the Yondaime couple give him a younger brother, in order to give them back their son. Minato looked at Uzumaki Kushina proudly. See, I told you that our son won't complain. Uzumaki Kushina stared at Minato. Won't be jealous of your brother? What if it's a younger sister? Uzumaki Kushina looked at Naruto expectantly. Younger sister? If it's a younger sister, do I have to put Naruto's soul in? In principle, there shouldn't be any problem. A pure soul won't have any memories. It's equivalent to reincarnation. But, Minato interjected, if it's a younger sister, then I'll definitely love her more. Uzumaki Kushina stared at Minato and scolded, Go away. I didn't ask you. I'm asking my son. After saying that, she looked at Naruto expectantly. Naruto nodded seriously and said, If it's a younger sister, then it will be better than a younger brother. Uzumaki Kushina asked, Why is a younger sister better? You don't like younger brothers? Naruto scratched his head awkwardly. He followed Minato's instructions. No, I like younger brothers too. Uzumaki Kushina didn't give up and asked, Then which one do you like more? Naruto learned this time and replied, "Whether it's a younger brother or a younger sister, I like both." Uzumaki Kushina was satisfied. However, after such an argument, Naruto was curious about whether his mother was pregnant with a younger brother or a younger sister. Naruto, is tomorrow's wedding really not going according to the rules? After talking about the future younger brother, they talked about tomorrow's wedding again. Naruto replied, "Rules are made by people, it doesn't matter." Uzumaki Kushina nodded. She looked at the hall that symbolized the Mingdu Empire. That tall building, can it really fly in the sky tomorrow? Or change the terrain, using genjutsu to make it look like it's flying in the sky? Naruto patiently explained, "It's really flying in the sky." Uzumaki Kushina nodded again, but it was obvious that she was still worried. She muttered, "What if it falls from such a high building?" Minato, who was waiting on his wife to eat melon seeds, twitched his mouth. It was unlucky to say that the house would fall before marriage. His wife was just pregnant, and her brain was already 3 years old. Naruto accompanied his parents for a while. Uzumaki Kushina, who was pregnant, began to yawn after chatting for a while. Naruto left. Looking up at the sky was still so blue. The sun was setting, and the clouds were drifting, looking particularly lazy. Why hasn't Tonari come yet? He's really calm. Naruto seemed to be wandering aimlessly today, but in fact, he was waiting for Otsutsuki Tonari to come to the wedding. Is it possible that this guy is going to snatch Hinata in front of everyone tomorrow? Naruto looked up at the sky. The lofty clouds moved according to Naruto's thoughts, forming a long sentence, "Come on, come on." At this time, if anyone noticed the clouds staring at the head of the road, they would laugh. The clouds were very light, and they were soon blown away by the wind and elongated. Naruto also lowered his head. But soon he raised it again. There was something in the sky that was very abrupt. It was a full moon, a super big full moon. It was 10 times bigger than usual. The full moon, which was originally hanging in the sky like a silver plate, now looked like a huge tire. Fuck. Naruto couldn't help but swear. Chakra quickly gathered in the eyes of the reincarnation Sharingan. The scene in front of him was constantly being pulled closer. The hazy surface of the moon was getting clearer and clearer. Naruto clearly saw the moon moving. Is Otsutsuki Tonari going to hit the earth with the moon? Isn't Otsutsuki Tonari on the Rikudo Senin's team? Will the Rikudo Senin let him hit the earth with the moon? The sun emerged from the clouds, the sun shone, and the outline of the moon faded. But Naruto saw that the moon didn't stop. Interesting. Can it be understood that Otsutsuki Tonari withdrew from the Rikudo Senin's camp? Naruto spread his thoughts and found Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, who were still wandering in the city. Look at the sky, the moon is falling. Uchiha Madara was indifferent. Hashirama rolled his eyes and muttered, "Do you think I'll laugh at such a clumsy joke?" Naruto said again, "You'd better look up. Then ask the old man behind you if he cares. If he doesn't, then I don't care. When the moon falls, I will take the people in the city to move." Hashirama looked up at the sky suspiciously. The moon. Where is it? Hashirama didn't have good eyesight. Uchiha Madara frowned and looked up. Chakra injected into the Rinnegan. Uchiha Madara saw it. He said indifferently, "It's really moving, and it's getting bigger and bigger." Hashirama's mouth twitched, and he glanced at Uchiha Madara. "I didn't expect you to tell a joke. But this joke is colder when it comes from your mouth." Uchiha Madara looked serious. "I'm not joking." Hashirama was a little suspicious as he looked up at the sky with big and small eyes. A cloud blocked the sunlight, and the outline of the moon was clear. Hashirama finally saw it. Shocked, he couldn't help but curse, F***ck. Chapter 683. When Hashirama saw the moon fall, his face turned pale. He hurriedly asked Sage of the 6 Paths, "Sage, how can I stop the moon from falling?" The spiritual space of Sage of the Six Paths was connected to the spiritual space of Hashirama and Madara. The three of them could see each other. The situation was somewhat similar to that of the human pillar force and the Bijou. However, the difference was that Sage of the Six Paths wasn't in their bodies. In the spiritual space of Sage of the Six Paths, Sage of the Six Paths was twirling his white goatee with his fingers. His eyes were slightly drooping, and the rough skin on his face was slightly twitching. He slowly replied, "Don't worry, we don't care, just leave it to Naruto. When Naruto makes a move, seal him." When Hashirama heard that Sage of the Six Paths was waiting for Naruto to make a move, he looked doubtful. Is Naruto now strong enough to control the moon? Although he had met Naruto, Hashirama didn't know much about Naruto's strength. When he heard that Sage of the Six Paths was going to attack Naruto while Naruto was dealing with the moon, he looked doubtful and dissatisfied. Sage of the Six Paths, if Naruto comes forward, he will be the hero who saves the world. How can we do such a thing at this time? Madara on the side was also slightly surprised. However, in terms of strategy, he was more flexible than Hashirama. Although he felt that it was a bit bad, it was necessary to win. Therefore, he stood aside and didn't speak. Sage of the Six Paths was suffering in his heart. Otsutsuki Tonari's sudden betrayal caught him a little off guard. He had taken the initiative to contact Tonari, but after the Byakugan evolved into the Tenseigan, Tonari's spiritual power had a qualitative transformation. Coupled with the fact that Hagoromo Sennin was injured twice by Naruto, he couldn't even take the initiative to contact Otsutsuki Tonari. Because Tonari refused his request to talk. Hagoromo looked at Hashirama from the corner of his eyes. He sighed inwardly. This reincarnation of Azura hadn't changed much from the past. She was still as naive as before, only hot-blooded and brainless. She wanted to reprimand him. But on second thought, Otsutsuki Tonari said that he would rebel. At this time, if the two in front of him also rebelled, then he would really be powerless to reverse the situation. He immediately swallowed the words of reprimand back into his stomach. He changed his words and said, "Let's wait first. Didn't Naruto say that he didn't care? Let's wait and see. If he really doesn't care in the end, then it won't be too late for us to make a move." Hearing Rikudo's words, Hashirama quickly asked, "Do you know how to stop the moon?" Six Paths' fingers, which had stopped moving, started to move his beard again. He looked like an immortal. He said slowly, "I used that moon to seal the 10-tailed beast in the past. I made it myself, so I naturally have a way to control it." Hearing this, Hashirama's complexion improved. He scratched the back of his head and laughed awkwardly. In the real world, Naruto was waiting for the reaction of Hashirama and Madara. His eyesight was excellent. He stood on the cornice of the imperial city. Although he was far away from the two, he could clearly see the expressions on their faces. Naruto saw Hashirama's pale face, then in a blink of an eye, he relaxed again. He didn't see him talking to Madara, so he knew that Hashirama was most likely in contact with Rikudo. Naruto looked at the two. Madara was the first to feel Naruto's gaze, and he looked at Naruto from a distance. The two looked at each other, and Naruto asked, "Rikudo didn't let you make a move, right?" "With my understanding of that old fox, he should let you wait for me to make a move, and then take the opportunity to seal me." Naruto's voice sounded in their ears. Hearing this, Hashirama's eyes widened, and he looked at Naruto with a, "How do you know?" look. Naruto saw this and knew that he guessed right. He sneered, "Sage, your reputation is so great, but you came up with such a despicable method." Tisk. Ha. I suddenly feel like I'm looking at a pile of indecent shit. It's really disgusting. What's the difference between decent and indecent shit? Hashirama's face turned red after hearing Naruto's words, but his focus was a bit off. At this time, Naruto didn't let the two talk and continued, "Don't worry, I won't make a move. The reason is that you were chosen by the Rikudo Sennin. If I make a move, wouldn't it be like a dog trying to catch a mouse? I'll sit on this balcony and wait for you to show your skills. I'll shout 6666 for you. What does 6666 mean? Hashirama pondered in his heart. Hashirama wasn't in a hurry. The Rikudo said that there was a way to control the moon. Since that's the case, I'll just wait. Time passed minute by minute, and the sun gradually set on the horizon. The sky darkened, and the full moon became clear. At this time, the moon was already as big as a house. Some people in the Mingdu Empire saw the phenomenon in the sky. While they were exclaiming in amazement, everyone was whispering to each other. The fact that the moon was very big today quickly spread throughout Mingdu City, which had a population of several 100,000. Mom, the moon seems to be getting bigger. On the streets of the Mingdu Empire, a child held his mother's hand and pointed at the moon in the sky. Then, everyone realized the fact that the moon was getting bigger. While they were amazed, someone said, "Do you think the moon will fall?" There were quite a few people who said this, but even more people didn't agree with it. How can the moon fall? I think it's because the Mingdu Empire is getting married tomorrow. Before it even starts, the sky has already sent a phenomenon. Many people agreed with this reason. Yes, it's hard to say. The immortals will come down from the moon to attend the Mingdu Empire's wedding. The streets and alleys of the Mingdu Empire were very jubilant. These words also reached Naruto's ears. He immediately smiled and said, "These people are right. There are indeed people coming down from the moon to attend my wedding. Wasn't that person Otsutsuki Tonari? And he even brought a precious gift, a pair of tensigen." The Mingdu Empire had people and beasts. Those were a group of ninja beasts that had gained intelligence. Today, they were here to attend Naruto's wedding. Most of the ninja beasts weren't too close to humans. They lived collectively in the western district of the Mingdu Empire. This was also a major feature of the western district of the Mingdu Empire. On the streets, on the roofs, there were bull ninja beasts with green bull heads and human bodies that looked like iron towers. There were also fiery red monkeys fishing for the moon by the water. There were also long-eared rabbits with half-black and half-white faces, and so on. Some of these guys were in human form, and some were like ordinary beasts that walked on all fours. There were also those that lived in the sea and rivers. Most of them were soaking in salty or light pools. Everyone looked up to admire the moon. It looked like 100 races lived in harmony. At this time, a snow-white fat rat that looked like a chinchilla swayed its butt and walked in front of a small blue snake. The blue snake stared at the fat rat for a long time, and its saliva flowed out unconsciously. Then, it held the big rat in its mouth. In an instant, its mouth was stuffed, and only a flustered small tail was left outside struggling and swaying. The little blue snake was about to swallow the delicious food in its mouth. The big-mouthed bird next to it raised its claws and grabbed the little green snake's throat, preventing the snake from swallowing the fat rat in its mouth. It screamed, "Spit it out!" The little blue snake's neck was gripped tightly, and its eyes were almost squeezed out as it stared at the bird. At this time, another little blue snake next to it saw it. With a twist of its tail, it picked up the frying pan beside it and hit the little snake with the rat in its mouth. It shouted, "Spit it out for me, you wastrel! Spit it out! Spit it out!" The frying pan hit harder and harder, and the little blue snake saw stars. Its mouth loosened, and the snow-white fat rat was spat out. The fat rat looked at the scene in front of it with a dumbfounded expression. After it reacted, it punched and kicked the snake's stomach. F***ck your mother. How dare you eat me? The fat rat looked fierce, but it didn't hit it hard. It seemed that its strength was only so. When the snake with the frying pan heard Little White's words, it immediately turned around and hit the fat rat's body like a fly. It screamed, "I am his mother. Try scolding me again." The fat rat was dizzy and disoriented. A black shadow shrouded the place. The two blue snakes, one big and one small, seemed to have sensed something. They looked up and saw a 3 to 4 meter tall big rat looking down at the mother and daughter pair. The little fat rat that was hit recovered and said to the big rat, "Dad, they bullied me." The big rat said coldly, Settle it privately? As it spoke, it took out the residence permit of the Mingdu Empire. The snake mother hit her son's head with the frying pan again and apologized. The child is not sensible, please forgive him. Let's settle it privately. However, an even bigger black shadow landed. It was a sturdy two-winged tiger. When the two families saw the visitor, they knew that someone had called the police. The visitor didn't say anything and handed over a ticket. The description of the incident on the ticket was very accurate. The punishment was to make the little snake a servant in a shop for a week. After the two families looked at it, the huge tiger took out a small card. It was a monitor with a sentence on it. Any objections? The two families shook their heads. The sentence on the monitor changed. Very good. The two-winged tiger spread its wings and flew away. The scene in front of them was just an interlude in the Mingdu Empire. The moon grew bigger and bigger until it was as big as a building. The sea started to rise, and the violent waves smashed against the cliffs. The momentum was vast and unsettling. At the same time, the Mingdu Empire started to feel restless and uneasy. Although the pond in the Mingdu Empire was smaller than the ocean, it started to stir. Will something happen to the moon? It won't really fall, right? Don't worry, Emperor Ming is here. So what if it really falls? This is a divine city bestowed by the gods. While everyone was talking and enjoying the moonlight, they started to look in the direction of the palace from time to time. On the cornice of the palace, Naruto was holding a jade wine gourd. He was raising his cup to the moon and the three of them. Naruto, what's going on? Hinata appeared behind Naruto. After Hinata activated the Tensigen, her white eyes turned into beautiful eyes with light purple pupils. For Hinata, those beautiful eyes were like a finishing touch. Her temperament and expression were much more beautiful than before. Naruto looked at Hinata with affection. Hinata was wearing a moon-white gauze dress. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, and half of her beautiful shoulders were exposed. Under the moonlight, her white skin glowed like a beautiful jade. It was even tempting. There was also the tight belt around her waist. It made her chest look extra perky and curvy. Hinata had almost no jewelry on her body. This was a natural beauty. But what if she added a little embellishment? Naruto thought, and 2 emerald jade bracelets were put on Hinata's wrist out of thin air. Hinata's slender, well-proportioned jade hands were embellished with emeralds, and she became even more charming for a while. Her whole person also had the beauty of the East. Hinata noticed that there was a pair of bracelets on her wrist. Taking a closer look, she raised her hand and gently stroked them. She couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. She couldn't put the bracelets down. It's beautiful. Naruto got up and took Hinata into his arms, smelling her hair and the intoxicating fragrance exhaled from Hinata's mouth, and praised, "You are even more beautiful." Naruto's magnetic voice was in her ear. Hinata only felt the hair on her ears being blown by the hot air, and she became even more shy. "Naruto, don't be like this. Many people are watching." Naruto didn't do anything that crossed the line, and said softly, "Let's admire the moon. Such a beautiful and mysterious moonlight is rare." Hinata raised her head and looked at the moon. Tonight's moon was full. The moonlight was clear and translucent, allowing the ring mountain to be clearly seen. Combined with the surrounding light and shadow, it looked like cotton wool in a jade stone. Although it was fixed, it was like a cloud, floating in the air. One could see that it was ever-changing, and it was beautiful beyond words. "Naruto, did you pluck this moon?" Hinata asked in a low voice. Naruto smiled. "If you like it, Tion, will pluck the moon for you in the future. But today, it is a gift from someone else." "A gift from someone else?" Hinata's long eyelashes blinked like brushes. But she didn't ask in detail. Naruto was so calm. Nothing would happen. She leaned in Naruto's arms and looked at the moon. She felt Naruto's unhurried heartbeat, and felt the intoxicating smell of alcohol coming out of Naruto's mouth. Hinata didn't like alcohol. But she didn't hate Naruto's drinking. The slightly transparent jade jug and Naruto's leisurely drinking, in Hinata's eyes, were so beautiful that she was intoxicated. Also, Naruto's face didn't turn red when he drank. The white and strong lines were full of indescribable charm. Very manly? She suddenly remembered Naruto's words, "Jade tree in the wind." Hinata was drunk and couldn't help but want to drink. "Naruto, I'll drink with you." Naruto glanced at Hinata, laughed, and said okay. On the cornice, jade steps appeared out of thin air. Naruto held Hinata's hand and walked up the steps to a higher place. Another jade platform appeared. There was a jade table and a jade stool on the jade platform. Naruto invited Hinata to sit, and the steps disappeared. The jade platform rose. Naruto prepared to drink for Hinata. Hinata asked for the jug and took the initiative to serve. Naruto felt even better. The moon in the sky suddenly sped up. Naruto glanced at it and knew that someone was angry. Naruto found it interesting. He said to Hinata, "I don't want to drink with a wine cup. Drink a mouthful and feed me." Chapter 684. The moon rushed into the atmosphere, and suddenly, the sky seemed to collapse. On the surface of the moon, the quiet and elegant silver-gray luster also disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a burning fireball under the violent friction of the atmosphere. The fireball was not as bright as the sun, and it was somewhat colorful, with black and red patches, burning very unevenly. But as the fall accelerated, the black areas became less and less, and the flames became stronger and stronger, and then there was a violent explosion. Inside the moon, where the Otsutsuki family once lived, reached the point of fire under the high temperature, and the Millennium City was burned. The moon exploded. Someone in the Mingdu Empire shouted. The shattered rocks scattered in all directions in the explosion. At the same time, under the great gravity of the moon, the waterfall began to flow backward, and the scattered leaves flew up. The wine in Naruto's cup also floated up. God! It collapsed. Someone was shouting. The moon burned redder and redder, and the falling speed was getting faster and faster. Fear has been raised to the throat. Maybe in the next second, the moon will hit the head. Hashirama urgently called the Sage of the Six Paths, but the Sage of the Six Paths closed his eyes and did not answer. Uchiha Madara used Susanoo and waved his wings. The mountain-like Susanoo was pitifully small in front of the moon. Hashirama wanted to use would-release ninjutsu, but in the Mingdu Empire, a brick and a tile seemed to be unable to move. His would-release couldn't take root in the earth, nor could it break out of the earth. Not only that, a light flashed, and Hashirama was thrown out of the city uncontrollably. Uchiha Madara was flying, and Hashirama planned to attack again after calming down. At this time, the moon suddenly paused and stopped. In the Mingdu Empire, on the jade table, Hinata's eyes lit up like a snowflake. Hinata's Tensigen was activated. At this time, the wine in Naruto's cup was still slowly rising, dancing like an elf. Her figure was graceful, exquisite and translucent. Naruto took a breath, and the wine floated into Naruto's mouth. After the moon stopped, Otsutsuki Tonari appeared in the air. Otsutsuki Tonari stared at Hinata's eyes closely and asked in disbelief, "Is this Tensigen? How is it possible? How did it awaken?" Hinata ignored Otsutsuki Tonari and looked at Naruto with her beautiful eyes. Naruto slowly got up and ignored Tonari Otsutsuki. Instead, he said to Hinata, "It doesn't matter. Just do it." Hinata relaxed after hearing Naruto's words. Seeing that no one paid attention to him, Otsutsuki Tonari rushed over. He also launched an attack at Naruto. Naruto didn't make a move, and neither did Hinata. Otsutsuki Tonari's attack missed. It passed through Naruto, and then it didn't attack the jade platform. It landed in Mingdu City and smashed into the ground, creating a huge crater. However, it was not Mingdu City that was attacked. Instead, it was the rock bed beneath Mingdu City. Emperor Ming City was like a mirage. It was right in front of his eyes, but it wasn't there. Haven't you noticed that we're not in the same space? Naruto looked at Otsutsuki Tonari with an expression of looking at an idiot. Otsutsuki Tonari came back to his senses and looked carefully with Tenseigan. He found that Naruto was using voidification on himself and the entire city. Is Naruto planning to use this trick to save everyone? But what's the use of this? Even if the people in the city are saved, the moon will fall, the earth will be destroyed, and they will lose their living space. Won't they die sooner or later? By the way, that guy still needs a space. Otsutsuki Tonari thought of the primordial sphere where he was imprisoned. But Otsutsuki Tonari didn't think that world was suitable for survival. You're too weak. Naruto appeared in front of Otsutsuki Tonari and raised his hand and patted Otsutsuki Tonari on the shoulder. This time, Naruto was physical. Otsutsuki Tonari felt the feeling of being patted on the shoulder. Otsutsuki Tonari didn't hesitate to attack Naruto. At the same time, Hagoromo Sannin opened his eyes and shouted, "This is the time. Seal him." However, neither Uchiha Madara nor Senju Hashirama moved. Otsutsuki Tonari's body burned with green flames, and his hair rose with the flames. 10 light balls that looked like truth-seeking balls floated behind him in a ring shape. This was the chakra mode exclusive to Tenseigan. It was similar to the Six Paths mode. In Naruto's body, the seal that sealed Otsutsuki Kagaya was opened. With a bang, the iron gate opened wide. The bead of sealing fell off from the iron gate and wrapped around Naruto's wrist again. Naruto smiled and said, "Do you want to do it yourself? Or should I invite you?" Otsutsuki Kagaya took a deep look at Naruto. Taking a step forward, for a moment, the crazy chakra directly broke the seal and poured into Naruto's body. Naruto's face constantly changed between Otsutsuki Kagaya and Naruto. "Are you sure you want to steal my body?" At the moment when his appearance changed into Naruto, Naruto questioned Otsutsuki Kagaya. In the next moment, Naruto's face became Otsutsuki Kagaya again. Otsutsuki Kagaya replied, "This is not stealing. If you want to use my power, you have to prove that you have the ability to control me." A white, hairy paw stretched out of the huge eggshell and was about to grab Otsutsuki Kagaya. At this time, the changed appearance changed back to Naruto. Naruto smiled and said, "Preserved egg, I don't need you this time, I will do it myself." The hairy paw hesitated for a moment and retracted back into the eggshell. Preserved egg replied, "Try it, if it doesn't work, I will do it." Naruto's appearance was about to change into Otsutsuki Kagaya, but he stood firm and didn't change. Naruto made a seal with both hands and shouted, "9 Lamas, Sensei. It's up to you. 10 Tails Seal, Gedo Golem, Control." Naruto shouted, and dark red chakra surged out of Naruto's body. A monstrous resentment that wanted to destroy the world erupted. "Kid, I'm not your sensei." Nine Tails' voice roared out. Naruto replied, "Wait for me to retrieve your memories. Now help me suppress Otsutsuki Kagaya's consciousness." Nine Tails replied, "I'm just doing it for the deal. Not to help you." At the same time, in the real world, Mingdu Empire, 9 dark red fox tails sprang out from behind Naruto. Otsutsuki Tonari raised his hand, and several truth-seeking jade gathered together, forming a light sword that was longer than the diameter of the moon. The light sword slashed down. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. The light sword's special rule pierced through the spatial barrier that Naruto had set up outside Mingdu City. Naruto's thoughts moved, and the spatial trap was activated. Mingdu City distorted and then disappeared. The light sword continued to slash down towards the planet. If this sword was to hit, the planet would suffer unprecedented damage. After all, in the development of the original world, Otsutsuki Tonari used this sword to split the moon. Hinata wanted to make a move, but Naruto disappeared with Hinata. He whispered, "Don't worry, someone will make a move." Sure enough, just as the sword was about to slash the planet, Hashirama entered the Six Paths mode under the guidance of Hagoromo. Unlike Naruto's golden chakra, the chakra wrapped around Hashirama's body was dark green. Under the guidance of Hagoromo, Hashirama turned several truth-seeking jade into shields and blocked Otsutsuki Tonari's sword. the divine artifacts collided, and a deafening buzzing sound spread out. The vegetation and mountains within 1,000 miles were all flattened by the sound wave. The battle in Naruto's body continued. Ox Spirit! It's me who came out to help me! Naruto yelled, and an ox head stretched out of Naruto's body. Yo! Yo! Little Naruto! We meet again! Ox Spirit replied, however, I actually don't want to help you at all. But, on the account that we're brothers, I'll help you. After the 9 foxtails, Naruto's feet transformed and 8 octopus claws appeared. Hinata was shocked and asked worriedly, Naruto, what's wrong with you? Naruto replied, it's fine, I'm fighting with Otsutsuki Kagaya for control of the body. Buy me a minute. Naruto's body swelled up. His body began to mutate in different degrees. Inside his body, Naruto and the 8-tailed creature formed a special contract. Next was second last. Brigade again! Naruto yelled. Brigade again appeared, humphed, and cooperated with Naruto to form a special contract. Then, Ichibi. Shikaku. Shikaku said with a look of displeasure. You promised me that you would give me a real body after the matter is done. After forming a contract with Shikaku, Naruto yelled, is anyone else willing to join? The 3-tailed creature remained silent. These guys did not have an agreement with Naruto. Back then, they were all forcibly drawn. The 4-tailed creature asked, what are the benefits of helping you? Tell me about it. However, to his surprise, Naruto said, no need, you guys are redundant. The 4-tailed creature was speechless because of Naruto's words. 9 tails, 8 tails, second last, and Ichibi's chakra fused together. The mutation on Naruto's body also changed. The Jubi sealed the space, and the newly fused behemoth swallowed Naruto. Naruto formed a seal in the stomach of the beast. The other tailed beasts were horrified to find that their bodies were melting. Naruto's face temporarily changed into that of Kagaya Otsutsuki. Otsutsuki Kagaya asked in panic, what are you doing? Naruto's face changed again. I'm going to fight for control according to your wishes. Do you think I relied on preserved egg to get to where I am now? Other than fusing a bunch of random attributes with me, that guy really didn't increase my strength by much. Preserved Egg heard his words. Eggy said reluctantly, oh. Just as Naruto was digesting the other tailed beasts, the 9 eyes on the Gedo statue began to shatter. Psht. One of the eyeballs exploded. The eyeball in the middle was occupied by 9 tails. Next, 8 tails. Second last, Ichibi. The other 3 eyeballs were there. The eyeballs shattered and chakra of the 3-tailed beasts merged into the body of the Gedo statue. Next, the other eyeballs also began to shatter. When all 9 eyeballs shattered, the voice of the sage of the 6 paths entered Naruto's ears. He yelled, bastard! You're destroying my seal. Naruto replied, I knew it. The original 10-tailed creature definitely didn't have these 9 eyes. You must have done it. After the 9-tailed beasts merged into the body of the Gedo statue, the eyes of the Gedo statue began to mutate and fused into a huge Sharingan with 9 tomo. However, Naruto discovered that this was just a facade. Just like when he entered the 9 tails mode in the past, his body would mutate into a huge demon fox. Once the 9 tails of chakra retreated, he would still be the same. Similarly, Naruto discovered that the 9 independent spaces on the Gedo statue did not disappear. The ability of the 10-tailed creature was still suppressed after the fusion. This was the trump card that the 6 paths left on the Gedo statue. Sage of the 6 paths roared, stop! Creak! With a creak, the 9 eyeballs of the Gedo statue broke, gradually revealing the original appearance of the 10-tailed creature. Sage of the 6 paths' eyes were about to split open. He never wanted to see that face again in his life. That was not his mother's face, but the original face of the 10-tailed creature. The seals were all broken, and the appearance of the 10-tailed creature was revealed. However, Sage of the Six Paths was stunned. That face was not the 10-tailed creature's. Naruto controlled the Gedo statue and said, "What? Are you surprised?" That face was Naruto's. The Gedo statue and Naruto's main soul merged into one. Naruto's changed expression also stabilized. Kaguya was defeated in this battle. Naruto mocked Sage of the Six Paths. "I fused my chakra into it. Now the 10-tailed creature is me, or the divine tree is me." Sage of the Six Paths screamed, "Impossible! The entire world's chakra originates from the divine tree. Your chakra won't change anything even if it fuses with it." Naruto had an indescribable smile and asked playfully, "Is that so?" "I don't think so. My chakra is my own." Naruto said to himself, "Kaguya, do you want to see your unfilial son? I'll lend you the control of my body." Otsutsuki Kaguya said, Hagoromo once tried to fuse with the power of the divine tree to obtain eternal life, but he failed. Otsutsuki Kaguya was now in Naruto's soul, and her voice could only be heard by Naruto. "The reason why you succeeded is because your soul doesn't belong to this world." Naruto replied, "Sort of. There's another reason. My soul has been strengthened by preserved egg." After answering the question, Naruto asked, "You don't want to see your son?" Otsutsuki Kaguya simply replied, "I don't want to see him. He's not my son anymore." Naruto shrugged and said to Hagoromo, "You should leave too. Your mother doesn't want to see you, and I'm too lazy to see you." With a thought, Naruto closed the spiritual world. Sage of the Six Paths was directly expelled. In the real world, Naruto's appearance had a new change. A vertical pupil opened between his eyebrows. The vertical pupil was the Nine Hooks and Reincarnation Sharingan. His eyes were replaced with white eyes. These were Otsutsuki Kaguya's eyes. Then there was Naruto's hair color, which changed from scarlet to snow white. "Naruto, you..." Hinata looked at Naruto with worry. Naruto smiled and said, "The fusion is complete, I'm fine." Hinata looked at the eye between Naruto's eyebrows and thought of the picture of Naruto taking out the eye. For a moment, she had an impulse to dig out the eye. Naruto didn't know Hinata's thoughts. He raised his hand and created a mirror. He looked at the pair of white eyes and said, "I also fused with Tonari's cells. How can this pair of white eyes evolve into Tensigan?" No one answered. Naruto injected chakra into the Byakugan, and there was no reaction. It just entered the Byakugan mode. Is it because of the system? Or after the fusion with Otsutsuki Kaguya, the dominant gene of Otsutsuki Kaguya hindered the expression of recessive genes? Forget it, let's try transplanting a pair of Tensigan. Naruto looked at Otsutsuki Tonari, who was fighting with Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. Chapter 685. Hey, isn't your enemy supposed to be me? Naruto said. His voice wasn't loud, but everyone could hear it. Tonari stopped, and Hashirama took the opportunity to rub his wrist. Although he blocked Tonari's sword, his wrist was sore. Uchiha Madara, on the other hand, stared at the red moon hanging in the sky like a soldering iron, as well as the others present. Naruto's voice just fell, and his figure disappeared. Several people's hearts followed, guarding against Naruto's sudden attack. Who should I deal with first? Naruto's voice was erratic. Madara's Rinnegan turned around nervously, looking for Naruto's trace. Let's deal with you first. Naruto's voice appeared behind Madara, but it was far away. Madara turned around nervously and saw Naruto pressing one hand on the surface of the moon. Chakra gathered like a storm, and the flames on the surface of the moon were extinguished, and a light film wrapped the moon. What does Naruto want to do? Does he want to destroy the moon? Everyone's heart was filled with doubts. Naruto's power broke out. Boom! The power of this sound was not weaker than that of Tonari, Otsutsuki, and Hashirama. Then the moon wrapped in the light film was shot out. The speed was faster than the fall. In a blink of an eye, It broke through the atmosphere and then became smaller and smaller. The moon was illuminated by the sun, and the silver brilliance lit up again. The only difference was that because of the change in the surface of the moon, the pattern on it had some new changes. Well, the first trouble is solved. Next, Naruto turned around, and the smile on his face made the people standing opposite him feel scared. The moon had been sent away so easily. How strong is Naruto? Naruto's eyes wandered over the faces of the people. It's you. Naruto smiled at Otsutsuki Tonari. The light ball behind Tonari had split again to fill 10. Seeing Naruto looking over, 5 light balls gathered in front of him, ready to deal with Naruto's attack. However, Naruto's hand suddenly came out of his body. He tore off his remaining arm directly. The pain of losing his arm was not enough to make Tonari feel fear. In the Tensigen mode, his emotions seemed to be abandoned. His mind was clear and extremely calm. Otsutsuki Tonari carefully analyzed Naruto's moves. The only thing that could be explained was Genjutsu. But was he in Genjutsu? With Tensigen, how could he be in Genjutsu? If it wasn't an illusion, how could it be possible? This was the second time his arm was torn off. Could it be that, even if he awakened the Tensigen, he was still no match for this person? Tonari's torn arm was thrown to his body by Naruto's hands. T-tut to Naruto studying to study it to, T-tut to studies to, T's to, S. Then the shape of the arm was disintegrated, and the liquid flowed into Naruto's body. What is he doing? Everyone stared at Naruto. Only Hinata and Uchiha Madara guessed something. It merged with Tonari's entire arm. This time, Naruto clearly saw the changes in his body. This change was not on the surface, but on the inside, as small as every cell, and the more subtle substances that make up the cells. Molecules and even atoms. A realization appeared in Naruto's heart, and then Naruto's body changed dramatically. His white hair once again turned into the red of the past. From the roots to the ends of his hair. It was as if a long brush had brushed his hair from head to tail. Naruto's Byakugan also changed. His pupils became clear. They were scarlet red, so red that it was frightening. Then the pupils elongated and finally fixed into a pair of fox vertical pupils. There were diamond-shaped patterns around the vertical pupils. Naruto opened his own Tensigen. In an instant, there was no third fetal movement as mentioned by Otsutsuki Tonari. Naruto smiled and said, "It seems that it's right to try it. Kagaya's Byakugan is the purest Byakugan." Naruto looked at Otsutsuki Tonari. "Fulfill the contract." Otsutsuki Tonari glanced at Naruto, then lowered his head uncontrollably, and even had the idea of kneeling down to worship him. Tonari Otsutsuki tried his best to restrain himself, but the impulse grew wildly like weeds, swallowing up all his reason. He couldn't resist. He couldn't resist. This was the pressure from his bloodline. Tonari's body trembled, and he was about to kneel down. Tonari wanted to hold on, but his legs still knelt down little by little. Boom! Tonari finally knelt down on the ground. The powerful force leaked out, and a crater appeared. Otsutsuki Tonari's blue eyes were red from suffocation. He was still struggling, but every cell in his body was against him. The Tensigen even began to bleed, and blood streaked across his cheeks, and Tonari's face became ferocious. He had a feeling that if he continued to hold on, this double Tensigen was likely to be abolished. "I lost." The moment he said this, Otsutsuki Tonari's aura weakened. He slumped to the ground. The Tensigen chakra mode was lifted. Naruto smiled, walked over, and said softly, "Raise your head." That voice seemed to have an irresistible charm for Otsutsuki Tonari. Tonari raised his head obediently. Naruto stretched out his hand and pressed it on Tonari's head. Inyong release. True creation regeneration. Tonari Otsutsuki's eyes were healed. The bloodstains on his face also fell off, revealing a white face. Then a pair of arms grew out visible to the naked eye. "In the future you will follow behind me. Be loyal to me." He didn't know if it was the restriction of the soul contract, or the uncontrollable power from the bloodline, or Naruto's dojutsu, but Tonari's face glowed with a new spirit and became fanatical. He bowed down to Naruto with a loyal face. "Now, go and deal with those two." Naruto issued an order. Tonari's Tensigen lit up, and his body once again entered the chakra mode exclusive to Tensigen. The 5 light balls behind him gathered in his hand and converged into a light sword. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. The long sword slashed towards Hashirama. There were only 3 truth-seeking balls left behind Hashirama. Unlike Tonari, Hashirama's truth-seeking balls couldn't be regenerated. The 3 truth-seeking balls converged into a shield. The two collided, and the sound waves raged again. The ball of light behind Otsutsuki Tonari once again split. 10 of them were full. 5 of the light balls fused together. The light sword appeared in his hand again. How should he deal with this sword? Hashirama's 6 paths mode was like a candle in the wind at this time, flickering and erratic. At the critical moment, Uchiha Madara made a move. Uchiha Madara's Susanoo held the sword in his hand and blocked in front of Hashirama. The two collided, and the sword was broken. The sword didn't decrease, and it slashed down. Is it over? Madara looked at Naruto on the side. That person didn't make a move and it was over. This kind of fiasco had never happened in his life. Unable to resist, he could only wait for death. The light sword split the Susanoo's head and cut towards the 5 rhombus crystal in the middle of the Susanoo's eyebrows. Hashirama jumped up, and the remaining power of the 6 paths pushed the body flicker technique to the extreme, and appeared under the light sword. Summoning technique. 5 Rashomon. Uchiha Madara saw Hashirama coming back to his senses and took the opportunity to squat down and lean back to avoid the sword. Boom! 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 The sound of breaking was endless. The 5 Rashomon were all broken. The Susanoo's body was also cut through, leaving a deep gully on the ground. Compared to cutting the moon in half, this gully was too shallow. Tonari wanted to attack again, but Naruto stopped him and said, "Okay, let's stop here." Otsutsuki Tonari stopped and returned to Naruto's side, standing respectfully. In the spiritual world of the 6 paths, the sage of the 6 paths shouted at the two. "Now, use the power of Yin and Yang I gave you to activate the Chibaku Tensei and seal him." Hashirama and Madara were ready to try. Naruto suddenly appeared in the spiritual world of the 6 paths. At this time, Naruto's golden light shone brightly, and the moment he appeared, he was like a Buddha. "I've been tolerating you for a long time." Naruto looked at the sage of the 6 paths with the Shinigami's edge. The sword slashed down without hesitation. Hashirama and Madara instantly lost their perception of the sage of 6 paths. The 6 paths' soul collapsed. However, Naruto knew that this couldn't erase the will of the 6 paths. The correct operation should be to gather the will of the 6 paths, and then, let preserved egg eat it. Naruto did the same, and then suppressed the will of the 6 paths with a pearl of seals. At the same time, his thoughts spread throughout the world to search for the 6 paths consciousness. The will of the immortal of 6 paths was like a virus. There were too many to count. The Shinigami's edge in Naruto's hand crossed the distance of space and slashed down. The 6 paths ninja tools were broken, and the will of the 6 paths was peeled off like fluorescent light and gathered toward Naruto. During this time, Naruto found something new. He saw Orochimaru in a person's body. "You're quite good at hiding." Naruto's figure appeared in front of Orochimaru. Orochimaru smiled bitterly and said, "But you still found me." Orochimaru was really hiding in Scales' consciousness. Naruto curled his lips. Then he found that not only in Scales' body, but also in Mitarashi Red Bean and Sasuke Uchiha's body. The will hidden in the cursed seal. Scales' body was relatively intact, while Mitarashi Red Bean and Sasuke Uchiha were more like backups. Naruto waved the Shinigami's edge in his hand again. He gathered all of Orochimaru's will and left a seal to prevent him from escaping. "I'll deal with you later." After dealing with Orochimaru, Naruto's consciousness returned to his body. The will of the six paths was held in the hand of Naruto's soul, and he threw it to Preserved Egg. Preserved Egg's head poked out of the eggshell, swallowed it, and then retracted it. In an instant, the records of the six paths disappeared. Whether it was portraits or stone carvings, even the memories left in people's minds were erased. The real world. Hashirama lost contact with the Hagoromo and opened his mouth to speak, but he forgot what he wanted to say. He opened his mouth awkwardly, then closed it awkwardly, thinking hard. Naruto's soul waved the Shinigami's edge again. Two familiar figures were pulled out from the bodies of Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. Asura and Indra. The two looked at Naruto, but they didn't seem to be as intelligent as the six paths, and they didn't speak. Naruto waved his sword, and Asura's consciousness was cut out and merged with the previous one. Then Sasuke. After doing this, Naruto stopped. Kagaya in Naruto's body said, "It's useless to do this, unless you can take back all the bloodlines. So, use the infinite Tsukuyomi." Naruto raised his eyebrows and replied, "No hurry, let's pull out a few bigger tumors first. Let's talk about the rest after I get married." Kagaya was silent for a moment and said again, "Then let's pull out the 3 holy lands." Naruto nodded seriously and said, "That's what I meant." When searching for the will of the six paths, Naruto had already found the location of the 3 holy lands. Before leaving, Naruto handed the wedding invitation to Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. "Tomorrow is my wedding, you should also come to attend, the more the merrier." Hashirama stared blankly. Naruto didn't wait for the two to answer, and smiled heartily, and arrived at the place where the 3 holy lands were located with Hinata and Tonari. Looking down from the sky, not far from Mount Miaoyu, Naruto felt a familiar aura. Looking at the direction of the feeling, he saw a withered tree trunk standing there on the desolate land. The aura is very similar to the Gedo Mazo. Then this tree, the trunk of the sacred tree. There seems to be a breath of life there, let's take a look first. Naruto didn't rush to Mount Myaboku, and first landed next to the trunk with the two. It's not far from Mount Miaoyu, but in fact, it's nearly 1,000 miles away. Naruto's hand pressed on the trunk, and the trunk seemed to come to life. It rose from the ground, but there was a barrier hindering it, and it struggled for a while before subsiding. Naruto snapped his fingers and tore the barrier violently, and this time the trunk finally came out of the ground. The withered trunks fell off one after another, and a crystal-clear seed appeared in front of Naruto's eyes. The aura on the seed and Naruto reflected each other, and there seemed to be all kinds of attachment. Naruto had a guess in his heart, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. "This is the seed of the sacred tree." Naruto raised his hand and picked up the seed, and in an instant, the trunk of the sacred tree turned into flying ash. It was as if the meaning of their existence was to protect this seed. Naruto stroked the seed, and the seed flickered with fluorescent light, like a child acting spoiled in its mother's arms. "Naruto, it's so beautiful." Hinata praised. Naruto smiled and said, "Do you want it? After we get married, I'll take you to find a habitable planet and plant it. Then it'll bear fruit for you to eat." At this moment, a sigh was heard. A huge toad crawled over from afar. There were a bunch of small toads beside the big toad. "That's a seed of sin, it can't be kept, leave it to me." Naruto mocked, "A cat eating fish is also a sin." The skin of the big toad was full of wrinkles, and it was an extremely old toad. Naruto's words didn't move it. From Naruto's words, it also understood Naruto's meaning and attitude. It also knew that their positions were different, so there was no need to talk nonsense. A man whose heart is not content is like a stupid snake swallowing an elephant. In the end, his stomach will only burst. Naruto smiled slightly. An elephant appeared out of thin air in front of him. The elephant was 3 meters tall and very strong. Another python appeared. The python was as thick as a tree trunk, but it was smaller than the elephant. Naruto said, "Is that what you mean?" The old toad looked at the elephant and snake in front of it with its old eyes, not knowing what Naruto meant. Naruto waved his hand, and the python felt Naruto's intention and swam over. A drop of blood flowed down from Naruto's fingertip and landed on the snake's head. Naruto's blood entered the python's body. The python mutated, and its body expanded with a roar. A few seconds later, it grew to 100 meters tall. Then, with a lick of its tongue, it swallowed the elephant into its stomach. The scene fell silent. Naruto said to the python, "Swallow this group of toads too." The python turned its head, opened its mouth, and swallowed the toad that was dozens of meters tall in one gulp. The power of nature was gathering, and the big toad was about to unleash its power. Naruto snorted coldly, and chakra swept out in all directions, preventing the power of nature from squeezing in. The python's bulging stomach slowly swallowed, and the old toad was swallowed so easily. Chapter 686. Without the force of nature, the toads of Mount Mayaboku could no longer resist. In less than 5 minutes, they were completely defeated. After another 5 minutes, the battle ended. During this time, not a single corpse was left. From the old toad sage to the unhatched toad eggs, all of them were eaten by the giant serpent. The giant serpent's body grew bigger and bigger as it ate. It was filled with a desolate aura and looked terrifying. Naruto. Hinata's face showed a trace of pity. Naruto raised his hand, combed Hinata's hair, and stroked her delicate cheeks. He comforted her, "Life and death are normal things. If the situation today was reversed, it would be really cruel for us. We should be glad that such a tragedy didn't happen, right?" After Mount Mayaboku was destroyed, Naruto brought the giant serpent to visit the other 2 holy lands. The giant white snake in the Ryuchi cave revealed its true appearance. According to seniority, this snake should be the grandfather of the snake that Orochimaru met. Naruto used the same trick again and isolated the force of nature. There was no more suspense in the battle. In the end, the giant serpent digested the white snake. Of course, Naruto's help was indispensable throughout the process. The last stop, Shikatsu Forest. Because of Tsunade, although Naruto didn't sign a contract with the giant slug, they were still friends. Therefore, Naruto didn't isolate the force of nature. Naruto decided to give the giant slug a fair chance. Logically speaking, this wasn't the right decision. The giant slug was very likely the strongest creature in the 3 holy lands. Because all the slugs in the entire Shikatsu forest were just split from the body of a giant slug. "I can feel that the aura of those 2 little guys is gone." The giant slug opened her mouth. It was an extremely pleasant female voice. Her voice was gentle and charming. If he closed his eyes, Naruto believed that what he would see would be a peerless beauty with a slender waist. But in reality, the giant slug was a super fat giant that weighed tens of thousands of tons. Naruto was silent for a moment before replying, "They have already returned to the embrace of Mother Earth." The slug giggled. Her voice was like the wind chimes on the street, very pleasing to the ear. "I didn't sense any signs of battle. It's hard to imagine how you dealt with them. Logically speaking, this question should not be answered." However, Naruto calmly recounted what had happened. After saying that he would isolate the power of nature, the snake and the toad were swallowed whole by his python. After the slug heard this, she was amazed by Naruto's method. If Kagaya Otsutsuki could have done it back then, there wouldn't have been so many problems later. Naruto agreed. She really doesn't know how to fight. The conversation between the 2 made Kagaya, who was in Naruto's body, very uncomfortable. He snorted coldly to express his dissatisfaction. At this moment, the giant slug raised its head. The mountain range churned, and several mountain peaks rose and then burst. That scene was more shocking than the awakening of Godzilla. The slippery mucus flowed on the surface of the slug's body, and not a trace of dust was left on the slug's body. The entire slug was sparkling like jade under the halo of the moon, and it didn't look bloated and ugly at all. "It's just a little too big." The slug stretched its body toward the sky as if it had lazily stretched after a long sleep. Then, "You told me such an important thing, so you don't plan to use this trick on me?" The voice was delicate, and there was a little more charm than before. Naruto nodded in agreement. Naruto's attitude was very clear. It was a fair fight. "Okay." The slug replied briskly, its body squirmed, and it spat out a strong acid to the sky. Naruto's thought moved, yin-yang release. The next moment, surrounding the giant slug, the trees all over the mountains and plains suddenly disintegrated and turned into snow-white table salt. The table salt covered an enormous area, like the ice and snow of the North Pole, stretching as far as the eye could see. Naruto clasped his hands together, and the table salt turned into two large hands to hold the slug in his palms. Table salt? What would happen to a slug when it encountered table salt? It would dehydrate so badly that its own mother wouldn't recognize it. The slug didn't dare to let its guard down, and immediately entered immortal technique mode. For a moment, as the curse covered its body, an aqua-blue armor of light protected the slug. Naruto was unmoved, and continued to use the table salt to envelop the slug. The white table salt wrapped the slug into a huge white egg. Then, heaven's defense. Naruto brought the giant slug to the supergravity plane. 100 times the gravity. The huge egg was compressed. 1,000 times the gravity. With a creak, a crack appeared on the slug's armor. 10,000 times the gravity. The slug couldn't hold on any longer. The armor shattered, and Naruto heard the slug's cries of, "Ah! Ah! Ah!" She cried out. A mountain of salt absorbed water and turned into a sea of salt. When Naruto picked up the slug, it had already become a dried slug. And because of the layer of white salt crystals that condensed on its body, the slug looked like a snowflake. Naruto was amused, and greeted, "Congratulations on your successful weight loss." The slug's body stiffened, and it cursed, "Naruto. Damn you! Didn't you say you wouldn't isolate my force of nature?" Naruto indeed didn't isolate the slug's force of nature, but this world had been modified by Naruto to isolate the force of nature. Naruto scratched his head awkwardly, and asked, "How about, we fight again?" The slug didn't like fighting, and it said decisively, "I can't beat you, I won't fight. Kill me or scrape me, it's up to you." Humph. Naruto thought for a moment, then fished the slug out. At this time, Naruto found that although the slug's body was shriveled, there were still protrusions. And the protrusions formed two lines of text. "Kill this me, we will meet again." What did that mean? Naruto didn't quite understand. Looking at the slug's body again, he found that the protrusion had disappeared, and the words were gone. Could it be a cicada shedding its shell? The slug was going to betray the World Will's camp? "Are you sure?" Naruto asked. The slug didn't answer, which could be considered a tacit agreement. Naruto brought the dried slug into the origin sphere. Then he summoned the huge python in as well. "Shameless, come, eat this too." Naruto threw the snowflake-like dried slug to the huge python. The huge python shed its skin after swallowing the white snake, and its body was now snow-white. Seeing Naruto feed it, it didn't hesitate and swallowed it in one gulp. When the dried slug entered its mouth, the python snorted. Then, it curled up into a ball. So salty. Shameless only cursed in its heart. It originally thought that it was something delicious, but it felt that it had been cheated by Naruto this time. But when it saw Naruto's expression, it didn't dare to spit it out. After the war, Naruto moved Mingdu City back to its original place. He didn't explain much, nor did he comfort it. He just announced that the wedding would be held as usual tomorrow. Mingdu Empire. A beautiful girl came to a Chinese restaurant. The girl fanned herself with the wedding invitation sent by Naruto and found a seat by the window. The waiter in charge of ordering dishes quickly came over. "Excuse me, what would you like to eat, dear customer?" The girl continued to fan herself with the wedding invitation, looked at the menu, and ordered a few dishes. She instructed, "Just these few dishes," add more vegetables and no salt. The waiter looked at the few dishes in a daze. Add more vegetables and no salt? What kind of method was this? However, since all kinds of strange customers came to Mingdu City, there were more strange requests. Some didn't eat pork, some didn't eat mutton, and some didn't eat vegetables. Therefore, it didn't seem wrong to not add salt. Dear customer, if you don't like to eat salty food, how about we change it to something sweet and sour? The girl nodded, and the waiter left. The girl looked out of the window and snorted, I will never eat salt in my life. And that smelly Naruto. Just you wait. I'm not done with you. Who was this girl? If Naruto heard this, he might be able to guess. Unfortunately, Naruto was currently immersed in the land of love. The next day, Emperor Ming's wedding. When the sun rose, the magnificent Mingdu Empire's imperial city rose as well. Look! The imperial city is flying. A cry of surprise rang out, and everyone tiptoed to look. There were also people who wanted to climb to the top of the building, but there was an invisible feeling of congealing, making the tall buildings that could be climbed with a single leap seem out of reach. Someone understood and exclaimed, It's the wedding! Emperor Ming's wedding is starting. The imperial city flew higher and higher, and everyone could only look up. The stone platforms stacked up and connected to the imperial city. On the stone platforms, a red carpet with golden edges was laid out, and a festive and solemn atmosphere assaulted everyone's senses. Then, bells and drums started to play, and the chimes of chimes could be heard from afar. The melody was grand and melodious. The restless crowd quietened down, listening to this wonderful sound that they had never heard before. The phoenix cried, and a golden phoenix flew out from the red sun. The golden phoenix's voice was ethereal, and it coincided with the melody of the chimes. The phoenix cried, and the dragon roared. Before everyone could recover from the divine beauty of the phoenix, a majestic dragon appeared in front of everyone with a long roar. No one knew what the dragon and phoenix were, but everyone was fascinated. The dragon and phoenix intersected and suddenly turned into a light mist. Everyone exclaimed. The light mist condensed and did not dissipate, and auspicious clouds dotted the sky stairway of the imperial city. On the auspicious clouds, there were two more groups of people. These people were wearing dazzling armor. No, those were divine armors. Everyone's heart was incomparably certain. One of the groups was lined up on both sides of the sky stairway, accompanied by strange beasts. The strange beasts were handsome, and there was a double-winged tiger and a dragon eagle. These strange beasts and their masters stood on both sides, with their heads held high, and their arrogance seemed to be able to pierce the sky. The other group of people was handsome and otherworldly. Their facial features were impeccable. The women were graceful, and the men were masculine. These people were tugging on their robes and following behind two immortal-like people, who were wearing a golden dragon robe and a 9-colored phoenix robe respectively, the Emperor and the Empress. The Emperor was naturally Naruto. The Empress could only be Hinata. From a certain point of view, the people on the ground should not be able to see the people on the sky stairway, but there was a kind of law that broke through all restrictions, allowing everyone to see the scene in front of them clearly. However, when the heavenly beauty entered their eyes, it shook their souls, and everyone felt ashamed of their inferiority. They did not dare to take another look, so they closed their eyes and knelt on the ground, sincerely congratulating. What kind of strange power was that? No one thought about it, and there was only incomparable respect in their hearts. The only ones who were not affected were the fourth-generation couple. It was not that these two people were strong, but they were Naruto's parents, and Naruto could not let them kneel. On both sides of the sky stairway, the people from the first and second teams also knelt down. However, they knelt down on one knee. The long spear was in their right hand, and they stood upright in front of them. Even if they were kneeling, they still had a towering pride. On the left was the strange beast. The dragon eagle that would not bow its head even if it died lowered its head sincerely. The double-winged tiger folded its wings and bowed its head. Naruto reached out his left hand and held Hinata's hand. The two of them took a step forward at the same time, and with one step, they stepped onto a stone platform. At the same time, Naruto's chakra was injected into his feet, and it spread out in Mingdu City, connecting to every living being. The source of the bloodline was rewritten at this moment. No one knew what was going on. However, the moment Naruto's foot landed, everyone felt as if the shackles on their bodies were broken, and they felt refreshed. Accompanied by the ancient chimes, Naruto and Hinata took another step forward together. This time, Naruto's chakra spread out to the entire world. On the third step, chakra continued to spread out with Naruto's will. On the fourth step, many volcanoes erupted, and waves covered the sky. On the fifth step, the lava that erupted from the volcanoes was extinguished, and the tide was pushed back into the sea. On the sixth step, the earth's crust shook, like a teapot that was boiling water. On the seventh step, the tremors subsided. On the eighth step, the ninth step, Naruto held Hinata's hand and ascended step by step. The entire world struggled and was suppressed. Preserved egg poked out of the eggshell. However, Naruto just replied calmly, "I'll do it, I already have an idea of what to do." Naruto continued to walk up, and Naruto's breath gradually became one with the entire world. On the 16th step, the 17th step, the 18th step, the sky darkened, the sky cracked, but it lit up again, and the black hole was smoothed by an invisible hand. On the 25th step, the 26th step, the 27th step, in the endless desert, the shadow of an ancient tree appeared. This ancient tree towered into the sky, and it seemed to be pulsating in the tranquility. It was like a growing fetus, slowly growing. Naruto stepped up, and the tree turned from illusion to reality. On the 31st step. At this time, there were still 2 stone steps to the highest point. Sasuke's body suddenly trembled. In the inner city of Mingdu City, on the VIP viewing platform, Aster also suddenly raised her head and looked at Sasuke on the stage. Aster's pupils were filled with dense purple patterns. The moment she looked at Sasuke, the boundless power of Miko-sama blessed Sasuke's body. Sasuke's dojutsu was activated. Time reversal. The whole world froze at this moment. In Mingdu City, on the stairway, Naruto held Hinata's hand and began to retreat. At this time, Naruto's chakra had spread throughout the world, and it was the time when Naruto's body was at its weakest. Continuing to retreat, the shadow of the divine tree faded. Naruto retreated to the stone steps where Sasuke was kneeling. Sasuke got up, used his finger as a sword, and pierced Naruto's abdomen, and an indescribable force invaded Naruto's body. Then, he grabbed Naruto's heart with his palm. Naruto was motionless, as if he didn't feel anything. Success was in the palm of his hand, but Sasuke's hand suddenly got stuck, and he couldn't move at all. In Sasuke's eyes, he saw a pair of fox's vertical pupils looking at him. At the moment when everyone's time stopped, the eyes of the fox's vertical pupils were full of slyness. It was like a hunter who saw that the prey had been put into a cage. The power that belonged to Naruto between heaven and earth was mobilized by the fox's eyes. At this moment, Naruto was still frozen. Naruto's eyes had a pair of fox's vertical pupils, but those eyes were looking forward. The slyness of the fox's vertical pupils was not this pair. The Otsutsuki Kagaya in Naruto's body was also frozen. Even the century egg in Naruto's body was frozen. The fox's vertical pupils appeared out of thin air, staring at Sasuke with interest. Sasuke's face was lifeless, and his movements were mechanical and stiff. The pair of fox's vertical pupils looked at Naruto, and the 2 pairs of eyes tilted, as if a person was tilting his head. Then, he looked at Hinata. The fox's vertical pupils were full of sexual interest. A blood vessel was connected to Hinata's body. Hinata woke up and became the only moving person in this frozen world. Hinata saw the fox's vertical pupils, and she recognized that these were the eyes of Naruto's past. Then, Hinata saw the frozen Naruto. A thought appeared in Hinata's mind, and it was Naruto's voice. My main body is facing an unprecedented crisis, and it can be said that he is about to die. If he dies, you will die with him. However, if you are willing to abandon my main body and be with me, I will save his life. How about it? Chapter 687. Is the demon fox's vertical pupils very powerful? No, he just copied the ability to go back in time when Naruto transplanted Sasuke's Manjikyu Sharingan to Danzo's arm. In addition, Naruto's power has spread throughout the world at this time, and he is a part of Naruto's body, so he has the same authority to control this power. Therefore, when two kinds of coincidences that were not coincidences met together, when Naruto's power has already surpassed the world, it just created a situation where he is invincible in the world. However, because he is Naruto's eyes, so it seems that he also inherited some of the hobbies of the main body. He likes Hinata, who the main body likes. If at this time, Naruto could see the scene in front of him. When he knows that the parts of his body are also green, he doesn't know how to feel. After all, this pair of demon fox's pupils can have the power to devour the rules, and it can't be separated from him and preserved egg. What are you talking about? Hinata was a little panicked. She held Naruto's hand tightly. At this time Naruto's hand was stiff like a sculpture. Naruto's pair of demon fox's pupils. A layer of shadow appeared around them. This layer of shadow was exactly the same as Naruto's appearance. The demon fox's pupils controlled the translucent body and replied, "Elope with me." It's really a straightforward sentence. Hinata didn't know what expression to make at this time. Are all of Naruto's eyes so mischievous? Looking at Naruto again, and Sasuke who inserted his hand into Naruto's abdomen. At this time, Sasuke was also frozen. At the moment when the energy he can control is not as good as Naruto, and with the same authority, the will of the world is naturally defeated. Without Naruto to rely on, Hinata thought a lot more than usual. She saw that Naruto's pierced abdomen was covered with blue-black color, which is not the color of a normal wound. It seems that something is drilling out of Sasuke's body and pouring into Naruto's body. The most strange thing is that at the moment when everyone is frozen, the power is still slowly invading Naruto's body. The blue-black color on Naruto's body gradually spread. The voice of the demon fox's pupils sounded, "Have you noticed? That is the unique life and death authority of the world's will. The body's body. The body's body will gradually decay under the invasion of this power. So before it completely decays, you have to make a choice. It won't take long because the speed of the invasion will increase as the degree of invasion deepens." Hinata looked at the demon fox's eyes. "You save him first, then we will talk." The eyes of the fox rolled its eyes. "Do you think I'm stupid? How can I negotiate after saving him?" Hinata gritted her teeth. "You like me?" Demon Fox's eyes said affectionately, "I love you." Hinata nodded. "That's even better. If you don't save him, I will die with him." Ha! Demon Fox's eyes were stunned, thinking about the logical relationship. Hinata, on the other hand, stared at Demon Fox's eyes with her beautiful big eyes. Naruto is a bad guy, even the pair of eyes that came out of his body are so bad. Hinata was angry and amused at the same time. Demon Fox's eyes replied, "You would rather die than be with me?" Hinata found that Naruto's eyes were full of childishness. She replied, "You can return to your body, then you can have me with your body." This seems to be a good way. Demon Fox's eyes looked at the body's eyes, and said angrily, "He already has other eyes, he doesn't need me. He doesn't want me, I don't want him. In the future, he is him, and I am me. Is she jealous? Is Naruto's body so cute?" A scene suddenly appeared in Hinata's mind. In the scene, all the parts of Naruto's body ran away from home. In the end, Naruto was only left with a homeless spirit body. Then, she accepted that spirit body and let Naruto's spirit body live in her body. Then give birth to a child? Give birth to Naruto? Pay. What kind of nonsense is this? Hinata sighed at her own imagination. Thinking about it again, if the child was really Naruto, then it seemed quite interesting. Demon Fox's eyes grumbled angrily for a long time, then asked, "You won't choose me either?" Hinata was about to reason with her, but Demon Fox's eyes said, "All right, no need to say any more, I don't want to hear you say that you don't want me." As she said that, the translucent image actually had tears in her eyes. She looked as if she was angry and wanted to cry. "I'm leaving, you two pig trotters can be together. I wish you two an early reunion and an early separation. Get married today and break up tomorrow, humph." As she said that, the blood vessels on Hinata's body were retracted, and Hinata's body directly froze. Then, the scene reversed, and Hinata was moving alone, her movements returning to the moment when she did not communicate with Demon Fox's eyes. Demon Fox's eyes looked at Hinata, a little unhappy. Time continued to reverse, and Sasuke's hand withdrew from Naruto's body. The part of Naruto that was invaded by the power of death did not retreat, and the necrotic part turned into ashes, revealing a hole. Demon Fox's eyes controlled heaven and earth, and the power that belonged to Naruto repaired the hole. Sasuke returned to his original position, and Naruto once again reached the top. Naruto returned to the 31st step. In front of him, there were only 2 steps left. Sasuke raised his head and looked at Naruto. This was the beginning of the time reversal. Asta raised her head and passed her power to Sasuke. Preserved Egg exchanged his coordinates with Sasuke. Then, he received Asta's witch power. In the world's huge rule system, the rule power intertwined together. The worlds will initiated the time reversal command. Preserved Egg rejected the command with the same authority. Sasuke lowered his head, and Asta knelt down. The trajectory of time was corrected, and Naruto raised his foot and held Hinata's hand as they climbed the 32nd stone step. Naruto's thought appeared in the core area of the world's origin. Another step, the 33rd stone step. Naruto's power spread here, and he obtained all the authority of the world's origin. The bloodline power of the entire Life Star was completely reorganized, and Naruto became the bloodline source of all living beings. Naruto succeeded in changing the heavens. Naruto held Hinata's hand and looked down at the entire world. "Hinata, this is the country that I have fought for you," Naruto said with a smile. Hinata raised her head and looked at Naruto's eyes. The Tensigen transformed into a fox's eyes with diamond-shaped patterns around it. Hinata's heart moved, and she couldn't help but think that Naruto still had a pair of eyes, and said, "Naruto, don't you want to change back to the previous pair of eyes?" Naruto lowered his head and looked at Hinata. "That pair. Why did you suddenly think of this?" Hinata shook her head, feeling as if something had happened, but also felt that nothing had happened. "I feel that pair of eyes is more spirited than this pair." Naruto's thought moved, and Danzo's arm appeared in front of Naruto's eyes. However, he found that the pair of fox eyes were gone. In the flower pot, Danzo's arm bent and handed a note to Naruto. There were only 2 sentences on the note. One was, "Don't miss me too much, I ran away from home." The second sentence was, "Orochimaru's ability is not bad, I took it as a means of transportation." Naruto was dumbfounded after reading it. Did his eyeballs run away from home? Even if he has now become a real god, he can't figure out this kind of thing. And it even brought his own traveling expenses? Abducted Orochimaru? Hiss. Is this what the body deification looks like? Naruto muttered to himself. Naruto controlled the authority of the world, and Preserved Egg came out of Naruto's body. The snow-white 9 tails fluttered with the wind, and it was very charming. At this time, Preserved Egg's mentality was also very complicated. Naruto really conquered this world. He felt that his sense of existence was ruthlessly trampled on. He comforted himself in his heart. It's normal, he just conquered a life star, and is still far from forming his own starry sky. When the time comes, Naruto will definitely have to beg him. Naruto waved his hand and planted Danzo's arm in Mingdu City. After Kagaya's body deified, she thought about how to save her master, but after my body deified, it actually ran away from home. Comparisons. Sigh. Naruto's wedding ended smoothly. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed, and the 4th-generation couple gave birth to a girl. Naruto separated the part of Naruto's soul that belonged to Naruto and integrated it into the girl's body. She was named Naruto. Naruto now had a sister. After another 10 years, Mingdu City became more prosperous. It is worth mentioning that Fenghua Xiaoxue of the Snow Country gave the Snow Country to Naruto, and wanted to make Naruto king. However, Naruto refused, and Naruto transferred this honor to his sister Naruto. In this year, Uzumaki Mito studied the huge Rinnegan. Then, under Naruto's guidance, the huge Tenseigan and the huge Rinnegan merged into one. It was named Eternal Eye. In the same year, the people of the Otsutsuki clan came to this world. Naruto imprisoned the invaders and learned a lot of secrets of the outside world from their soul memories, as well as a bag of sacred tree seeds. Therefore, Naruto had the idea of building a battleship. The core of the battleship was the Eternal Eye. Of course, the crew members were the 1,500 souls. After the battleship was built, it was named Emperor Mingdu. It can be seen that Naruto's narcissism is already outrageous. Naruto also put the Life Star under his control into the battleship. In fact, Naruto could also take the Life Star into his body, but if he did that, he would have to go through a process of refining and fusing. In that case, all life on the Life Star would have to die. There were many acquaintances of Naruto on the Life Star. Naruto wanted to wait for this group of people to die of old age before thinking about the fusion. Or in the future, he could find other life stars and directly fuse with others. After the battle of Emperor Mingdu was completed, it is worth mentioning that the Rinnegan also has the capacity to accommodate 1,500 souls. These 1,500 souls were transformed into an appointment system by Naruto. In other words, anyone's soul can be saved. Another point is that Naruto resurrected a lot of the Otsutsuki clan and the Uchiha clan on the moon. Then, to encourage reproduction, he issued a policy of donating eyeballs after death. Naturally, this was to create more Eyes of Eternity. With more Eyes of Eternity, there would be more divine warships. Naruto has already thought of the name of the second battleship to be named after Hinata. The battleship set sail. Naruto followed the aura of Nine Tails and took back the chakra that belonged to Nine Tails that was swallowed by other stars back then. At the same time, the memory of Nine Tails was also taken back. These were all transferred to Otsutsuki Kagaya by Naruto. Whether it is Nine Tails, Hachibi, Ichibi, Nibi, or even the others, in Naruto's view, they are just a part of Kagaya. However, Naruto didn't notice that as the memory of the past was recovered, Otsutsuki Kagaya looked at Naruto with a different gaze. From reluctance at the beginning to familiarity, and then intimacy. Otsutsuki Kagaya also likes to eat sweets, so it is clear why Nine Tails likes to eat sweets. Otsutsuki Kagaya also likes to sing. After Otsutsuki Kagaya let go of the sadness in her heart, Otsutsuki Kagaya can often be heard humming a tune on the Ming Emperor battleship. Naruto liked this very much, and he was also glad that Otsutsuki Kagaya didn't sing Hachibi's rap. Although sometimes, she would sing for a while. Naruto also found the life star that almost took his life. Naruto took Hinata and planted the seed of the divine tree on that life star. The voyage of the divine battleship stopped. Because a new life star was found, Naruto's plan also changed, or rather, he made a choice. Naruto planned to nurture the original life star first. As a production star, he wanted to cultivate more combat elites and prepare for the construction of more battleships in the future. After the plan was executed, the Mingdu Empire began to implement a new combat system, abolishing the original ninja profession, not for anything else, but the fact that his life was short was something Naruto couldn't bear. The Mercenary Academy was also expanded. Students were recruited. The outstanding students would be given a combat bracelet. This bracelet would seal the fusion of the body's mental power and vitality. It also put an end to the creation of cannon fodder ninjas. At the same time, this bracelet was also connected to the Eye of Eternity, which was also the system. This way, as long as Naruto gave them the authority, they could continuously obtain energy from the Eye of Eternity. They could also display super strong combat power. This system gradually improved in the next 100 years. The profession also had a new name, Holy War Mage. The Mercenary Academy was also changed to Holy War Mage Academy, or Holy War Mage Academy for short. Holy War Mages were equipped with exclusive armor, and the soldiers had the diversity of special forces. They could also attack from afar in close combat, but most of them were close combat. Long-range attacks were usually left to high-power super weapons. After another 100 years, when Naruto led this army to practice, they discovered other cosmic creatures. In the battle with other cosmic creatures, Naruto obtained more rare materials. These rare materials also promoted the development of the Mingdu Empire. The most obvious change was the new progress of the ghost jellyfish technique. Naruto found that these materials could strengthen the ghost jellyfish technique. It allowed the creatures carrying out the ghost jellyfish technique to evolve. The ghost jellyfish technique continued to be developed. The Mingdu Empire gave birth to the beast system. However, this system only really developed after the degeneration potion and separation potion were developed. Because some evolutions were unnecessary, and could even be said to be contradictory. And with the degeneration potion and separation potion, evolution went from treading on thin ice to daring to try all kinds of changes. On this day, the seed of the divine tree that Naruto sowed grew and bore fruit. Naruto and Hinata merged with the new world one after another. Naruto's battleship set sail towards the Sea of Stars. Naruto looked at the bright starry sky. I wonder if I'll be able to see the store manager's family again, and the Sakuragi sisters. While Naruto was looking into the distance, Uzumaki Mito found Naruto. Naruto, my idea succeeded. Naruto was curious. Which research project? Looking at the bouncing Uzumaki Mito, Naruto recalled the day of the wedding, when this girl wrapped him up as a gift and sent him into the bridal chamber. Uzumaki Mito sent the experiment record to Naruto. Look. The video played, and Naruto saw a 5 cubic meter metal block disappear into thin air. This is... Uzumaki Mito giggled. I'm talking about the idea of compressing 3-dimensional space into 2-dimensional space. Naruto, let's find a planet and try it out. Theoretically, this attack can wipe out a planet, or even an entire galaxy. Uzumaki Mito had an expression of wanting to take credit. This move, in other words, was the dimensional reduction attack. End. To be continued. PS. Naruto's story is finished. Please order it in full and reward everyone. Thank you for your company over the past year. Please bow. PS. New book, SCP Worker. Story setting, Mingdu Empire. Elements: SCP Lottery System plus Mingdu Empire. For details, please refer to the following remarks. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.